Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric. I've got hosting duties this wonderful Wednesday evening. I'm joined, as always, by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash. How are you two fellas doing today?
I'm tired, but I appreciate the alliteration.
I thought it was good, and it was not planned. I just said wonderful Wednesday. I'm doing obviously very well. Corey is in pain because he explained something to me about running 800s in a neighborhood with sharp 90-degree turns, and
yeah,
it
my
means
ankles,
absolutely nothing to me. But
my ankles are not happy
with
with me right now, not at all. We had to pivot from our normal 800-meter course off campus, and we made the best out of what we had, but it was not pleasant. So, Evan, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just hanging in there. Kind of hungry. You don't have your camera on, but that's fine.
My camera's on. I don't see you.
Oh, well, I mean, my camera's not on either.
Okay. I also, I like how you throw in that you're hungry and, we're just about to start what could be a 2.5 to 3 hour show.
Yes.
Maybe that's a hint to the host to keep it moving so Evan can go munch on some Wendy's as quickly as possible. But we're not going to do that. Just kidding. So we'll start with the NBA because somebody decided to not actually initially watch the tweet that I sent and actually thought I was being sincere.
Yeah, Ben Simmons can shoot, people. It's red alert. This is not a drill, except it is.
Yeah.
And it's not a drill we need to do. It's unlikely that this is ever going to happen.
Yeah, Ben Simmons tried a fadeaway shot in a preseason game for the Nets. And
it was ugly.
Solidly bricked it off the backboard. So, no, cannot actually shoot. That is a joke. NBA is still a couple weeks away from getting started, so we will leave that there for now. Let's talk a little bit of college football, though, to start the show. Let's just get this over and done with for some folks whose college football team sucks. Can't relate. Evan, what's going on with your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
They won a game.
Hey!
By some miracle or act of God.
I seem to remember last week asking Evan if he thought that the Yellow Jackets could cover, and he very shortly said no.
What was the? Oh, they were playing Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
And they were like big underdogs.
They made it on bad beats.
That's right, they did. I was watching. Yes, that's right. They were on bad beats.
How was it a bad beat?
I think it was
on the over-under.
It was an over-under thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it was like a 20-point spread or something, and,
it was the over-under that was the bad beat, but still, that game made it on to SVP's segment.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it was great to watch the Jackets pull out a win for new coach Brent Key, who I've never heard of until just now. Jeff Collins got fired, and apparently he was trying to reinvent the whole world of college football, but forgot the part about coaching football. So, it is what it is. It was great to see him win, but I don't have high expectations for what's going to happen in the future. I would say Pitt kind of blew it, to be honest.
That's probably fair. Get some bragging rights over Will Massimini, who is in our fantasy football league, and
haven't heard from him.
Interesting how that works when people don't win. It's like me I have yet to read any of Corey's fantasy football write-ups, even the week I won by 1/10 of a point, just because when Corey published it, I still wasn't sure if I was going to win, so I was like, I'm not reading this. So, Jeez. I don't want to read about how much my team isn't good. Like, it's just, I'll skip this week. If I get hot and win a couple, put together a little winning streak, then I'll be checking it out. But I don't need to read about wow, Eric's team sucks again. What
You
a
could just
surprise.
skip your section and like see what the other teams are up to and what.
But that's all I care about me. I'm all about me. I'm selfish.
Well, I guess I already kind of knew that.
You should have. Yeah. Hey, you picked me to be your best man.
I
knowing,
did.
Wow, look at this selfish dick, and I'm gonna make him my best man. So that was your choice, buddy, not mine. Anyway, we'll get off the Yellow Jackets. Talk about some other college football action. Number 8, Tennessee. Yes, you heard that correct. Tennessee is ranked in the top 10 and is going to Baton Rouge to play number 25 LSU. That game is on noon, but it's not Big Dan Saturday. It's on ESPN. I guess they probably planned for both of these teams to be buns, and at least one of them's not. I think LSU kind of still is. And so they're stuck on a noon time slot when this probably should be a primetime game. But hey, what can you do? You also got Big 12 matchup. You've got, even more shockingly, number 17 TCU at a ranked 19 Kansas.
Yes, top 20 Kansas.
This is Big Noon Saturday somehow.
It's not.
Actually, no, it's not. It's on
No,
FS1.
this is FS1.
You're right. I'm sorry. Either way, Kansas is ranked.
In football.
You used to get fired for losing to Kansas. Like, that was the rule. Like, that's what got Charlie Strong fired from Texas is he lost to Kansas, and they said, okay, that's it.
I guess they got tired of people waving flags on their midfield logo.
I thought that was Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State.
What happened
was
at
one that got
Kansas
bent out
then?
of shape
Something
over there.
happened at Kansas.
Kansas didn't.
Nothing
Wasn't it like with
happened in
Baker
Kansas.
Mayfield or something?
Kansas didn't shake hands with Baker Mayfield.
That was in Ohio.
Yeah, like Kansas didn't
well,
shake hands
yeah.
with Baker Mayfield before the game, and then took a bunch of cheap shots at him during the game, and he was, grabbing himself in certain areas. during the
that's
game.
what that was.
And he ultimately lost his captaincy for a game, which was just a useless gesture from Oklahoma. I mean, it didn't mean anything. It didn't stop Baker from winning the Heisman or from Oklahoma getting to the college football playoff that year. But hey, it made certain people maybe feel better for about 5 seconds.
Do you think it stopped anybody from listening or not listening to the captain?
I mean, I don't know. It didn't affect their ability to win games, except against Georgia, much to Evan's chagrin.
Oh my God!
They completely
Come on,
blew that game.
Oklahoma.
What was that friggin' squib kick that they kicked right to the guy, the up back or whatever, for an easy field goal attempt? I'm still mad
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
ridiculous. I mean, that was one of the greatest Rose Bowls of all time, objectively. But Oklahoma, you blew it.
They did.
It was a golden opportunity, and you blew it. They blew it in overtime, blew it in regulation. Oh, God.
And then you didn't stay up late enough to actually watch the national championship game to see them choke away a lead against Alabama.
No.
But I
No,
did.
didn't.
I watched Tua throw the game-winning touchdown pass. We will get to him later.
I've never even heard of him.
Yeah. So, other interesting games. Number 11, Utah is at number 18, UCLA. A little Pac-12 action at 3:30. You've got Texas A&M is at number 1, Bama. A&M has fallen out of the rankings on account of the fact that they suck. So, no surprise there.
But now
this
they
in
get
'cause-
prime time.
Again, this is probably pre-planned. Everybody thought this was supposed to be the marquee matchup of the year. A&M's supposed to be really good. They're getting all these recruits. Jimbo Fisher and Saban hate each other. Like this is supposed to be the game of the regular season outside of maybe like rivalry week, and now it's just looking like a typical Alabama versus anybody game where you just get smeared on the field, and that's what's going to happen to A&M. Unranked Florida State is at number 14 NC State on ACC Network, if you are lucky enough to have that in your cable package.
It's way
or
down the
unlucky
dial,
enough.
but just keep looking. It's there somewhere.
Yes, it's not ACC Network Extra or Plus or whatever the hell they normally put Georgia Tech on.
I
Well,
mean,
they get to play on ESPN3 this week.
Yeah.
Moving on up in the world.
Moving on up.
You
Not
love it.
even the Ocho like usual. It's been 3.
And as we mentioned, Georgia Tech is hosting Duke, only a 3.5-point underdog at home.
Yeah, like
So-
Duke has had some pretty decent football teams in recent years. So
Well, they're good this year. They've
and,
been
and they're decent this year. Like, is this an overreaction to Georgia Tech beating Pittsburgh, or is Georgia Tech actually like maybe competitive this year?
I mean, they're
Georgia
not
Tech
that.
is not competitive.
Okay.
They're definitely not that. It
It's
might
not that option.
it might be more like people are kind of maybe selling off the early season hype of Duke and are coming back to earth with that. And my Maryland Terrapins are playing Purdue this week. Terps are 4-1 after they handled Michigan State at home. Their only loss in the season is a 7-point loss to not a 7-score loss. That's
49 points. Good God.
That's what I expected it to be. Instead, it was only a 7-point loss to Michigan on the road. So, the Terps look pretty good. They've actually got some votes for the top 25, and I think if they're able to win this game or maybe another game, you might actually see the Terps with a fancy little number next to their name.
I feel like Purdue shouldn't be enough to put you over the top. Like, if you're not already ranked at this point, Purdue shouldn't really move that needle. But, yeah, if they get another win, they're 6-1.
Don't underestimate the power of people in front of them losing. Like, that's usually
that's fair. That's fair.
Like, it's really just a battle of attrition at the bottom of the rankings. Like, any team that picks up a second loss is going to fall out, and the Terps are going to be one of the prime teams to slide in there if they're able to handle this. But I'm just most excited about the fact that I can feel with confidence the team's going to be bowling again this year. Last year, they didn't get their 6th win until their last game of the season against Rutgers in rivalry week, which is, again, hilarious. The fact that, 1, Rutgers is a rival of Maryland, and 2, the fact that they had to wait to beat Rutgers just to get the 6th win. But I digress. That's all we've got for college football.
I do want to mention the big noon Saturday game is Michigan and Indiana. So, yeah.
So you can sleep in for that one.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
Snooze or Rooney.
In fact, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be up in Jersey doing Jersey things.
Did you say Josie? It's Joyzy.
Whatever. I don't... Whatever you prefer. Sure, fine. But anyway, I'm going to be up there doing some stuff. Going to a show Friday night, and then going to Six Flags and riding Nitro some more.
And Little Devil.
Yeah, got to cash in the Little Devil credit too. Yeah, so I'll be doing that. Let's talk a little baseball, if we are so inclined. We're going to start with Evan and my Orioles, who finished out their season, finished 83-79, had a doubleheader today, took the first game, and then lost the second one with the puntiest of all punt lineups that you could possibly send out there, which has drawn some ire from various reaches of Orioles Twitter.
Hey, y'all finished 4 games above 500.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see that coming. Certainly not. But so the Orioles finished their first winning season since 2016. Adley Rutschman was named Most Valuable Oriole. I think that was pretty obvious to anybody that watches baseball that he was the only real option for that. And so before we get to Corey's Yankees and the other postseason outlook, which I think the bracket is set.
Yeah. The season is over.
Yeah, but like even before today, I think the bracket was set.
Yeah, I think 2 days ago the NL bracket became set, and that was like 2 days after the AL bracket was set.
Yeah, so we'll do a little postseason preview based off of that. But we'll do a little requiem for the Orioles real quick. So Evan, what were your impressions of this season other than the ones we've talked about repeatedly?
It was like I've said over and over, like, this season was an amazing ride. I was hoping for maybe 60 wins, 65 wins, if they get frisky or something. But 83 wins, oh my God! This team was so fun to watch. A lot of young guys in the lineup. Some of the young pitchers were good, which is different. Dean Kramer rose from the dead this season. Kyle Bradish was good in spots. Spencer Watkins was a name to mention or something. Jordan Lyles, who was a bum and probably still is a bum, he 8 innings, which matters for some reason. So all in all, this random assortment of jabronis, as I've called them, all of them played over their head, and it led to a team that didn't get eliminated from the playoffs until October 1st, which was amazing. I'm so happy with this Orioles team, and the future really couldn't be brighter.
So here's my question for you guys. Based on this season, what should be the expectations for Orioles fans next year? Should you guys be expecting a playoff berth, or if they played over their heads to be 83-79 this year, should the expectation just be another winning season next year?
I think the expectation will be that they make the playoffs, but I think the expectation should be 83 and 79 again. I think 2022 being competitive was honestly a year early, and it's much harder to win when you're supposed to win. So, like, if there are expectations like, oh, this team's not supposed to be effing suck, to borrow a phrase from Ovechkin, if they're not supposed to be suck, then when you're supposed to win, it's going to be a little harder to win. And I think they might take a little step back before they take a big step forward in 2024.
Yeah, my concern with setting the expectations too high for 2023 is the fact that we've talked about it. How many of these Orioles have solidified their spot in the lineup? And it's not many, right? Like, it's Adley Rutschman, it's Gunnar Henderson, and assuming that there aren't any blockbuster trades or anything like that, Cedric Mullins has obviously earned his place. And then there are guys who, while I don't necessarily think are guaranteed high-level contributors, certainly don't seem to be in a position to be moved out of their spots. Those guys are like Anthony Santander and Ryan Mountcastle. I think they're pretty safe. Like, they're probably going to be in the lineup, and that's not the worst thing in the world. They both. Ryan Mountcastle has a lot of potential, and Santander just had a great year. But you got guys like Austin Hayes, who I think he might be done.
Should be.
I mean, I just don't. I think he's had his chances, and I think hasn't adequately proven himself to be an above-average major league player. And when you're a team that's trying to build a perennial contender, you need to have guys that are better than just average at best, and that's what Hayes is shown to be. At his best, he's an average player, and so that concerns me as well. Which means you're going to have a bunch of open slots for these young players, and while that's great, we don't really know what they are yet either. And even more so, even if they will be good, we don't know if they'll be good right away. Like, most young players don't come up and just immediately be great. Like, Adley Rutschman is an uncommon circumstance. Gunnar Henderson is an uncommon circumstance. There's a reason these guys were the number one prospects in baseball. The other guys the Orioles have, Jordan Westberg, Grayson Rodriguez, other guys like that are going.
Connor Norby,
Colton Cowser. The list goes on and on for Orioles prospects that we think are going to be good, but we don't know yet, and we certainly don't know if they're going to be good as rookies. And those guys are going to have to come in and try to stake their claim to starting roles on this team. And so if the expectation is, oh yeah, we're going to have 3 or 4 rookies occupying position player spots or starting rotation spots, and oh, by the way, we're going to improve our record by 10 wins, that seems like a pretty hefty expectation, right? Like, You're counting on these guys to come in and replace veterans that you don't really trust, but certainly played well enough, right? Like, Austin Hayes played well enough to help the Orioles be good before Rutschman got there, right? Like, first 2 months of the season, he looked like an all-star, and if he didn't, the Orioles would have been way worse than they were. So he contributed to the team winning games even before he fell off, like basically after Memorial Day. So if you've got rookies, you could reasonably expect that some of these guys, if not all of them, for the first 2 months of the season, they might stink. Like, they might just come up and have no idea how to adjust to major league pitching. And at that point, you're going to be saying, well, damn, Austin Hayes was better than this. Or, damn, Jorge Mateo was better than this. Or Julio Urias was better than this. And there's going to be some lack of patience from certain fans. And I'm like, 2023 is the year to figure out exactly what you've got. Who's going to be, from the farm system, immediate major league contributors. And to me, there are obvious places where the Orioles are not going to have holes filled, mainly in the starting rotation. That's where they should target in free agency. And if they want to get frisky and go after an infielder or something like that, that's cool too. But we know we've only got maybe 2 starting pitchers that have solidified positions next year, and then a couple of guys on the farm that we think will be good. And then there's John Means, who's going to be coming off of an injury. We have no idea when he's going to be back. So going out and getting one key high-level starting pitcher should be something that the team should foresee as a much-needed acquisition. That's everything else you could work around, and you could say, okay, we've got guys for this, but starting rotation is what needs the most attention.
Julio Urias plays for the Dodgers. Ramon Urias.
I'm sorry.
On the Orioles.
I don't know why I said that. Okay. Thank you, Evan, for the correction.
Yeah.
So
Julio's more relevant. So
yes, he is. That is very true. So now that we've said goodbye to the Orioles, let's talk a little Yankees. We'll start with what happened in the present, or the recent past, I should say, to wrap up the regular season. Your boy Aaron Judge, Corey.
He did it.
He took a lot longer than most people thought he would, but
he sure did.
He hit number 62 down in Arlington.
So, took his sweet time getting number 61, and then took his sweet time getting number 62. It almost didn't happen. Wait until the penultimate game. At least he did in the first inning of that game. Just went ahead and did it. Lead off at bat. But Yankees ultimately lost that game 3-2. They also lost today, so they finished the year with 99 wins.
Oh no!
Yeah, kind of sucks.
Just
hoping for number 100, but they did win the AL East. They're the number 2 seed in the American League, which means that they get a first round bye under this new playoff format. They'll be playing the winner of the Rays and the Guardians. But yeah, congratulations to Aaron Judge, the new American League record holder for home runs in a season, the new Yankee record holder for home runs in a season. Definitely a huge deal. And you guys know how big of an Aaron Judge fan I am. I'm enough of a fan that if the Yankees fudge this up and don't have him back next year, I'm going to be doing some serious soul searching on whether it's even worth my time to continue supporting this team, because that would be, that's one of those unforgivable sins potentially, letting that guy walk. I was saying that even before we were thinking there was a chance that he could reach 50, let alone 60 home runs this year. This he just has such a great presence for the city. He's a really good all-around player. He can hit well. He's really developed his vision at the plate. He still strikes out more than I would like, but that's the game today. He strikes out less than a lot of other power hitters. He takes a lot of walks. He's got an elite arm. One of the best, if not the best, in Major League Baseball among outfielders, and maybe among fielders in general. Quite honestly, his arm is that good. And he's just all around seems like a really great dude. So I am hoping that this is not, the last regular season game that we'll see him in a Yankee uniform, that this will not be the last postseason that we see him in a Yankee uniform. But looking into the postseason, we'll see what happens with that Rays Guardians series. I'm excited to see what the Yankees can do this playoffs. The interesting thing with this new format is that you'll get your ace in game one if you're one of those first round bye teams. But then, the teams in the wild card, it's a best of 3 series. Even if it goes 3 games, I don't know if that's going to be enough time for your ace to come back around and pitch that first game of the division round, which definitely gives those higher seeds a little bit of extra advantage, which they should have. That's you earn that by being one of the top 2 seeds, but that could be a big deal. And if either the Rays or the Guardians sweep it, then there's no way that the ace is coming back around for the first game, and maybe not even for the second.
Well, game 1 of the division series, that date is set already. So I don't know when it is, because I didn't think I would be mentioning it, but it's probably Tuesday of next week, I would guess.
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday of next week.
Yeah, so going back to Aaron Judge, we talked about it going into the season, the fact that the Yankees made him what we consider kind of a lowball offer, and Judge seemingly justifiably scoffed at it and bet on himself this year.
He bet on himself, and he won on himself one way or another. If it's not with the Yankees, he's going to get paid.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get paid.
But it's so hard to believe that the New York Yankees, with their deep pockets, after a season that Judge just had where he was celebrated as Yankee royalty for surpassing Babe Ruth and Roger Maris's home run records for the franchise.
He should be the MVP.
Oh, he's no doubt going to win the MVP award in the American League. But I can't imagine the Yankees not just backing up the Brinks truck for the guy at this point.
One would think.
One
One
would
would hope.
after all of this that's happened, where, again, Judge seemed a little prickly about things with the organization in the summertime, like around June and July. He seemed like he was kind of like, yeah, well, they had their shot and we'll see what happens. And he was dropping little hints that he might be out. But again, when something like this happens where you're a part of, we can question how historic it really was, but certainly for the franchise, it was historic. 62 home runs is the Yankee record.
It's still what, the
American
fifth most all time?
It's seventh most.
Seventh most? Okay. Seventh most all time, regardless of league.
Yeah, and so the point is that this was celebrated to the point of it was getting on my nerves. It was getting on any non-Yankees fans' nerves, which, again, is great for the Yankees and their fan base. The fact that they got to spend the late summer and the fall putting their arms around this moment that the rest of us were like, can y'all shut up already? At that point, it must be love. Y'all need to get back together. It's like you're the couple that makes everybody around them sick. So just stay together, right? It doesn't add up that anything else would happen. But, money talks and BS walks. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, we will. Hey, how about the AL East, by the way? Best division in baseball this year. The worst team in the division, the Boston Red Sox, 6 games below 500. The next best team to finish 5th in their division was 26 games below 500.
Yeah, we kind of figured that obviously we knew the Yankees were going to be pretty good. We didn't necessarily know they're going to win the division. I think we all picked the Blue Jays.
I think I did too.
But the Blue Jays made the playoffs.
They did.
The Rays made the playoffs, and the Red Sox were expected to be at the very least a contender. They kind of fell off. The surprise obviously was Baltimore. The fact that the Orioles were actually competitive this year instead of winning only 65 games or something like that. That's what really, everybody knew the AL East was the best division, but the fact that the Orioles took that jump just made it unprecedented how good the AL East was. And while obviously that's really cool, it's also frustrating as an Orioles fan knowing it's like, hey, our rebuild's working. Oh, by the way, everybody else is going to be really good. So, just got to work around that and, trust the process.
But you guys also, you guys did that while surviving the final time ever that we're going to have 19 games against every other division opponent in the best division in baseball. That makes it even more impressive for you guys.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm very frustrated because it seems like the Orioles lose to bad teams a lot more than they should. Like the fact that they had a winning record against the Astros this year, but somehow went 1-5 against the Tigers. It's just ridiculous. But let's talk a little postseason action outside of our teams, because Evan and my team is not going to be participating, and Corey's team is one out of how many teams do they take now? 12?
Yeah, 12.
Yeah. So let's do a little preview of this wild card round. So let's start with the future Yankee opponents, potentially Tampa
One
Bay
of them, yeah.
at Cleveland. What do we think is going to go down here? Because as Evan mentioned, the entire series takes place in Cleveland. It's 3-game set, or best 2 of 3. If it goes 3, it goes 3. We know Tampa's been scrappy. They've won the pennant recently in the Mickey Mouse season with only 60 games. But they've also been a regular playoff team. They won the American League East last year. They won 100 games. They were a little bit of a disappointment. I think they lost to the Astros in pretty anemic fashion in the postseason last year. Actually, I think they lost to the Red Sox, and then the Red Sox lost to the Astros in the ALCS. But meanwhile, you got the Guardians, who I hesitate to call them a surprise team, because the only thing surprising was that the White Sox were as bad as they were, and then they kind of won this division by default once the White Sox fell off. But at the same time, their pitching's great. They play good defense, and they've got Jose Ramirez. That might just be enough.
And they got a cool new name by comparison of the other team that has a new name.
Barely. Obviously, there's no accounting for taste, but I don't like either of the new names. But
that's fair. But this one's better.
This one's better. Yeah.
They should have been the Spiders.
They should have
obviously.
been
the Spiders would have been a cool name.
That's probably the thing. Is the Commanders are worse by virtue of the fact that just what an awful name that is. But I feel like Cleveland dropped the ball more because they had
another really good option.
They had a really good alternative. It's just go with the Spiders, man. That
like
was
Washington
Cy Young pitched
also
it.
had other good options. They had the Red Wolves.
Sure, but like
That's not a good option.
the Guardians had a historic name. Cy Young played for the Cleveland Spiders.
Yeah.
And the color scheme fit. You could have people dress up like Spider-Man. It would have been awesome.
Yes.
It would have been perfect. But they opted just to get in out of there and replace it with Guar. So there you go. Anyway, this should be an interesting series just because winner take all in a 3-game set is certainly compelling for a season that goes 162 games. And the teams have some similarities. I mean, the Rays rely on pitching and defense and boring stuff. Like they're kind of a no-name team. They always have been. But so's Cleveland. I mean, again, I mentioned Jose Ramirez, but they rely heavily on their pitching staff. This could be a grind 'em out type of series where each game could be 2-1.
Yeah. This series is kind of the undercard series of the weekend, to be honest. Like, all of the games are scheduled to be day games. So, the first game 1 is at noon on Friday. I mean, like, I only know stuff about the Rays because the Orioles played the Rays so many times. I don't know anything about this Cleveland team. Apparently they can pitch well. I know they have Jose Ramirez. That's about it. Oh, there was the Cleveland Twitter.
Stephen
The official
Kwan.
Twitter was complaining about their rookie not getting enough attention, whose name I can't remember.
Stephen Kwan.
Yeah, him. They were talking about him and how, if he played in a big market like Baltimore or Seattle, he would get more recognition. Like, unbelievable. Y'all need to chill right now. So,
They were really annoying about that.
oh my God. Meanwhile, Adley's just mashing dingers stuff.
Doubles
Like,
every
come
other
on.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that really interests me about this series is the fact that the Yankees are going to play the winner of it. I feel like the Guardians ought to win this. I mean, them getting to play all 3 games at home should be a pretty big advantage for them. They also had 6 games on the Rays. Granted, the Rays play in a tougher division. So maybe that kind of accounts for all that. So I kind of feel like these 2 teams are roughly even with each other. Tampa Bay is also coming in on a pretty cold streak. They've only won 2 of their last 10 games, whereas Cleveland is coming in winning 7 of their last 10. So, if we're also talking about recent trends, Guardians definitely should have a leg up in this series.
Well, I'm rooting for the Rays because I feel like the Rays stand a better chance of beating the Yankees. And
Boo.
I don't like the
That's
Yankees.
exactly what I was going to say, Eric.
Like Cleveland seems like they just smell like a team that's just going to lay down as
Absolutely.
soon as they see anybody that's not mediocre. They're just going to clam up and blow the games. Whereas the Rays have been there before. They've got pennant medal. I'm not going to say championship medal because they haven't actually closed the deal on any of those. But
At least they're not the Twins.
I mean,
well, the Twins, we wouldn't even be having a conversation. The Twins would just get swept by whoever and just be thankful it's not the Yankees for once. They're pathetic.
yeah. I mean, the Guardians, if they advance to the DS, this is Yankees Twins all over again for the 7th time in a row or something. They're going to go to Yankee Stadium. That first game is going to be 52,000 people in there, all jacked up, and they're going to.
I thought you were saying it was going to be
turn into a
52,000 to nothing.
That could happen.
Or that could be the score as well. It's not going to be pretty if Cleveland goes to play the Yankees. But the Rays, I feel like the Rays might be the better team because they have a bunch of no-name guys too. But the Rays seem to make a lot more something out of nothing.
The Rays definitely know how to do things in the playoffs.
Yeah. They can. I think the Rays win this series probably in 3 games, and I think they'll give the Yankees a run for their money. Maybe that series will go the full 5. It's only 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safest bet for how this plays out. Like, if I was a Yankees fan, I would not want to see the Rays just because division rivalry history is not exactly great when it comes to the Yankees and the Rays playing in the playoffs. And meanwhile, Cleveland just feels like a bit of a walkover team. Like they're in the playoffs because of their crappy division. Like if they were an AL East team, they would be in last place.
Yep.
So let's move to the other AL series in the wild card round. The Toronto Blue Jays are squaring off against the Seattle Mariners. All 3 games will be in Toronto.
Hold on a second. Did you just say the Seattle Mariners
Yes.
are in the postseason?
Yes, they are.
Who could have ever possibly expected that this would happen? There's literally nobody on this planet who would have been wild enough to pick the Seattle Mariners to make the playoffs this year, right?
I don't know what this guy was thinking when he did it, but this one guy, his name is, I think,
Corey Puffett?
Corey,
That would be me.
C-O-R-E-Y.
Yes, Cordarrelle
Maybe curse
Puffett.
on this podcast.
But yes, congratulations to Corey. I didn't mock you, but I slightly admonished you for picking the Mariners. I was like, Corey, this is
Evan openly mocked me.
yeah.
Yes, I did.
I tend to be a little bit
pick
more
of all time.
restrained because I was like, well, because the thing is, I knew the Mariners had some talent, so I was like, they could, but man, it's the Mariners. I wouldn't do it, Corey. And then for the first 2 months, you looked like I was like, yeah, see, I told you, Corey, this is how this is gonna go. But then the schedule got buttery for the Mariners, and
They
Julio
won
Rodriguez
90
was great.
games.
Yeah, good for them. So they broke their 21 season playoff drought to secure a wild card spot, and their prize for doing so, they get to go to Toronto to play the Blue Jays, who,
The team that we all thought was going to win the American League East and is still the number 2 team in the American League East and did pretty damn well themselves.
and who got good late. Like the
They
Blue
won
Jays
7 of their last
came on
10.
strong. Like we thought. As Orioles fans, that the Blue Jays were the team to hunt. The Orioles beat them in a series in like the 3rd week of August, and we were like, we got what, like 9 more games against this team.
I think it was like
That's the team that we're gonna run down. And then the Orioles played them in a 4-game set and got their ass kicked through most of it. Evan and I were there for 2 of those games.
Yes.
And the thing is, but before that series, as soon as the Blue Jays and the Orioles parted ways, the Blue Jays remembered, oh yeah, we're good. We've got a lot of talent on this team, and they started winning baseball games, and they cruised past the Rays too. Like the Rays looked like they were going to be the top.
Rays were
wildcard
about to
after
catch the Yankees for a bit.
Yeah, like the Rays were only 5 games back in New York, and we were like, oh boy, what the hell's going to happen here? But then the Blue Jays just soared past them. I think the Blue Jays are playing excellent baseball right now. Like this isn't to shade the Mariners, who I'm a recovering fan of. So like this is more just the reality of, I think the Blue Jays are the better team. They're at home.
Oh, they're absolutely the better team, and they're at home.
Yeah, so like they should be favored, but that doesn't take away from what the Mariners did this year. Like, yeah, I can whine about their easy schedule and how the playoffs expanded 3 times for them to be able to get in, but at the same time, they got the 5th spot. It's not like
They
got
would
the
have been
6th.
in last year too.
Yeah, like they would have been over the last 10 years.
Right,
So
yeah.
you got to give them some credit for getting it done. I mean, there are plenty of Mariners teams that had opportunities to get it done,
And
they didn't. This one did. So, shout out to y'all. Unfortunately, I don't think your postseason stay is going to be very long. But who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm sure if I'm an Astros fan, I'd much rather see the Mariners come through, because the Astros were the primary reason the Mariners had such a bad record early in the season, because they beat them like a drum all the time, whereas the Blue Jays, I think, are a much more dangerous team.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The Blue Jays are definitely way better than the Mariners. I mean, congrats to the Mariners for making it to the tournament, but this is going to be, I'm feeling like it's like the NCAA tournament with a 2 seed and a 15 seed. Like the Blue Jays, unless they play with their food before they eat it, should just roll the Mariners in, decisively. But the Blue Jays all year have underperformed. They should have won this division, and they didn't. The Blue Jays, they did get the top wild card spot, but I mean, they should have won at least 100 games, and they just weren't as good as they should have been. They fired their manager midseason. I don't know who their manager is now, and I don't remember the guy's name before. But yeah, they fired that guy because obviously the team was underperforming. So it's going to be another 50,000 people. I imagine they're going to have the roof closed up there to keep all the noise in. I'm expecting the Mariners to, thanks for coming, but it's big boys time now.
Yeah. So moving to the other bracket, speaking of teams breaking playoff droughts, and speaking of teams firing their manager midseason and then making the playoffs, the Phillies are in the playoffs too.
Sure are.
So the
Yes.
Mariners had by far the longest postseason drought. And then the second longest drought was the Phillies, and they clinched a playoff spot like a day later. So I think now it's it's tied among a bunch of teams for the longest active drought. I think Kansas City might be in that mix. I don't remember who exactly wears the crown, but it's not.
What about the Pirates?
Yeah, I think the Pirates might have made it. I don't remember, but
Yeah, it's been a
We'll have to
little
look.
while.
yeah, you could easily look it up. But it was very much bunched up between like it was Phillies, Mariners, and then everything below them was like pretty much on the same page. Like because most teams don't take a decade or more to make the playoffs. Looking at you, Baltimore Orioles. From '98 to 2011, just
Yeah, from when I was in
non-showing up.
second grade until I was a senior in college.
Yeah, well, the Mariners just made it. Last time they were there, I was in 5th grade, and I'm 31, so that's something else. Anyway, let's talk a little NL action. The Phillies are playing 3 or maybe 3 at St. Louis. The Cardinals are the Cardinals, and they won this division, and I'm tired of the Cardinals. But they've got the presumed NL MVP in Paul Goldschmidt, the presumed NL MVP runner-up maybe in Nolan Arenado, and Manny Machado fits in between there somewhere, but we'll see. And they've got Adam Wainwright, who's old, and they've got Albert Pujols, who's old, and they've got Yadier Molina, who's old, and apparently none of them are going to be back next year, so it's a little bit of a nostalgia tour for these guys. But the Phillies had to scrap to get in. The last time just burning in my head from the St. Louis Cardinals is the most disgraceful no-show I've ever seen in the playoffs in the NLCS against the Nats. There's a complete non-series there where they just didn't bother to play baseball. It got cold, so they just packed it up and went home. I can't get that out of my head. Like that's gonna stick with me. That almost makes me lean Philly here, even though I feel like St. Louis is the better team.
Don't do that. No, the Cardinals should win this series. I'm super disappointed in one of my picks. In fact, I believe it was the team I picked to win the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, they
I don't know
traded
what
their closer.
They
was
traded their
terrible.
closer mid-season. And granted, he didn't. He was kind of
But then he got
Kinda,
good
yeah.
after a really bad stretch with the
Yeah,
Padres.
yeah, he did eventually get good again, but they just couldn't recover, and they finished a game behind the Phillies, so they're out. No, I mean St. Louis is the better team here by far. They ought to win this series pretty handily, and it's Cardinals came into coming into the postseason a little bit cold. They're under 500 in the last 10 games, but so are the Phillies. So, both of these teams are kind of riding the struggle bus right now. But the Cardinals ought to win this series. I'm more interested in the other series that we're about to see. I mean, this is probably the series of the new wild card round.
It's also heartbreak central for Orioles fans because
Oh, yeah.
on one hand we want to root for Manny and Wayne Kirby, on the other hand we want to root for Buck, and we can't do both here.
No, you
So,
can't.
Yeah.
So you got to pick somebody.
For me, the Phillies-Cardinals series is a series I have the least interest in. Like, this is just
What
the
else?
most boring series ever. But the Padres and Mets, I think, of the 4 wild card series, has the most juice.
I mean, I'm absolutely rooting for the Padres here. The Mets did this to themselves. The Mets they're in the 9th inning right now of game 162. They are beating the pants off the Nats. They're going to wind up with their 101st win, but they already lost the division on account of just blowing it against the Braves. They're going to wind up tying the Braves by record, but the Braves have the tiebreaker and the division.
Yeah. So it feels like the Phillies and the Cardinals, that's determining who gets to be meat tenderizer for the Braves.
Yeah.
The Braves are going to stomp whoever they play. The Braves are amazing. Whereas the Padres and the Mets, well, I don't know about the Padres just because they're missing probably their best player. Tatis is not there.
Whose fault is that?
Not saying it's not his fault, but it is what it is. And I feel like if Tatis was there, that team probably resembles a pennant winner. And the fact that he's not makes them it's a big blow to that lineup, especially with Juan Soto being kind of up and down since he got traded. But yeah, this is a really compelling series between like the Padres, who feel like they've been building this team over the last few years that's supposed to be a World Series contender, but things just haven't gone right for them.
No, they
like
have
last
not.
year they looked really, really good. Then Tatis had his various injury issues. Their pitching never really got on track. Blake Snell was a huge disappointment as a trade piece. Yu Darvish wasn't that good either. And then this year, Yu Darvish gets on track. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. And, Tatis comes into the season hurt because of his stupid motorcycle accident. Machado's carrying the team on his back. He looks like an MVP candidate for the entire year. But then he has that really ugly-looking ankle injury that he somehow only missed a couple weeks with. And then they get Soto. That's supposed to be this big splash, and it just really never took hold. And I think that the team just lost a little bit of juice when they found out Tatis wasn't coming back. Right? Like they came in thinking, okay, we've got Manny, we've got Soto, and then Tatis is just going to create this triumvirate of awesomeness in the middle of the lineup. And it's like, yeah, he's not going to be here. He's done until like sometime next year, which fortunately for them, they made the playoffs, so they get to kill a couple more games off that suspension during the postseason.
Really?
But, tough break for them. Meanwhile, the Mets, I agree with you, Corey. Like, you can win 101 games. That's wonderful. But you had DeGrom, you had Scherzer lined up to face the Braves in the key series of your season.
And you blew it.
And they both got rocked. I mean, like, at some point, yeah, you pin it on the Mets, but you also got to be specific. You got to pin it on those guys, too. Like, they didn't get it done.
Nope.
Like, those are arguably the two best pitchers in all of baseball. They came up small when it mattered. And now they're stuck in this goofy wild card situation for the right to go play the friggin' Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not where you want to be.
No.
I do take issue with that a little bit. I don't feel like the Mets choked so much as like the Braves just played so much better than them. The Braves showed over the course of the last 4-ish months of the season that they're the better team.
Both?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, and I would have agreed with that, but the fact that we had a 3-game series where DeGrom and Scherzer were both deliberately scheduled to pitch against this Braves team.
And they got swept.
Like, to me, that's where the choke comes in. Like, the fact that the Braves came on strong and caught them.
Yeah, more power to them.
Yeah, no issue.
I mean,
with
they
the
were like
Mets.
40 games over 500 or something.
Okay, but when you have a chance to actually control it, and the Mets did, and they had everything they could have possibly wanted. They had their two guys healthy and on the mound, and they both got rocked, and they get swept. I can't not call that a choke.
I forget exactly what the numbers were, but going into that series, they had like a 75 or 80% chance of winning the NL East. They came out of that series behind the Braves and with like a 3% chance of winning the division, if that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it would be different if they lost the division, but they still they won 2 out of those 3 games.
If they had won one of those 3 games, they would have won the division by a game.
Sure, but we also don't really know what the Braves did down the stretch. They might have been like, we're on cruise control. So.
They won 7 of their last 10.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like the Braves might have taken their foot off the gas in that last series just because they knew they had it locked up. But anyway, who do we got winning this Padres-Mets series?
I lean Mets. They've got 12 games on the Padres. They've been better all season. They're at home. I just got a feeling like they're gonna hold home field, but it's definitely gonna be interesting. And I'm really curious to see whether either of these teams can put up a legitimate fight against the Dodgers when they get to that point. Whichever team wins, I want to see a good series against the Dodgers because that ought to be the most interesting series of the divisional series.
I think so too. I also lean Mets. I think Mets in 3. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's the Mets. They had a golden opportunity to have. I mean, whoever got the 2 seed in the NL was going to get just a magic carpet ride right to the NLCS because. They're not going to have to play the other team from the NL East, and they're going to get to play like a Phillies team, which isn't that good, or a Cardinals team, which is just boring, and they don't have to play the Dodgers in the second round. But like I think, all the Mets' goals are still in front of them. They can still win the World Series because they're in the playoffs, but now it's going to be so much harder. I think whoever makes it out of the 6-3 series, they're going to get rolled by the Braves. It's not going to be close. I feel sorry for whoever happens to buy a ticket for Game 3 of the NLDS when the Braves come to town in Philly or St. Louis, because, that's just going to be like a funeral or something. The season is over. I'm rambling, but yeah. Feel bad for the Mets. I think they win this, and then best of luck to you against the Dodgers. Ooh.
I wouldn't sleep on the Mets in any circumstance, just because anytime you can throw Scherzer and DeGrom at anybody, you're going to have a shot. But like you said, Evan, you've got to go through the toughest wild card team, in my opinion, is the Padres. And then you've got to go wrangle with the Dodgers in a 5-game series where your 2 best guys might not be available right away, which means you're probably only going to get them once apiece in that series. And then you've got to find a way to beat the best team in baseball. And then, oh, by the way, if you get by them, you got to beat the team that absolutely snatched your heart and soul and ruined your season already. If you're lucky enough to resurrect it, you got to go beat those Braves again.
You have to go back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, exactly. So, not looking great for what was a very promising looking season for the Mets, but they're still alive and they still control their own fate. So, if they can get it done, good for them.
It's not supposed to be easy to win a championship.
No.
Right? You don't get to play teams that were expected to perform like the Orioles were expected to in the postseason. Looking at you, Tigers. Terrible. You don't get to play the Tigers and the Royals and the Nationals and the Pirates and stuff in the playoffs. You have to play other legit teams. Yep. So, if you want to win the championship, then go get it. And it's a lot of obstacles in your way. That's how it is.
Yes, sir. So that covers it for the wild card round of Major League Baseball. We're excited to see how these series play out, and we're excited to see what happens next when we get to the ALDS, which I think I imagine.
By the time that we get to next week's show, the divisional series will have begun.
Yeah, so
all the division series start on Tuesday the 11th.
Yeah, so those series will be underway. We'll be able to talk about what we expect, what we've already seen from there, and we'll be able to go from there. But now let's hop over to some professional football. The NFL. We are heading into Week 5 this week. Let's do a little recap of what we saw in Week 4, and let's rip this Band-Aid off for you, Evan. What the hell did the Ravens do again?
Yeah, they blew it again. They lost a game that they should have lost, to be honest. Like the Bills, like Eric said, the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. The Bills are definitely the better team.
They lost a game that they should have lost, when the score was 0-0, not a game that they should have lost when they were winning 20-3.
Yeah, well, when you can't convert third downs, when you can't tackle people, when you can't block anybody in the run game, that's a team that deserves to lose.
Sure,
if you're playing the
but
Bills,
it's inexcusable to give up 17 points, a 17-point lead that the Bills spotted you.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Another spectacular choke job. I agree.
Even if this is against a team that's going to win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. No, you still. No, they blew the game. They played bad in the second half,
and they should feel bad.
Yeah, I hope they do feel bad. They should feel bad, and they should eat and fester all week. And then on Sunday against the Bengals, they'd be like, you know what? We done practiced and we thought about this and we screwed up this long list of stuff and we fixed it this week and we're ready to go. At least I thought that was what's supposed to happen. So this team, it's just so frustrating. Every single week, it's always something. This defense, it's once again, it's an embarrassment to the what the words Ravens defense means. Like they just can't get any pass rush. There's more blown coverages. The linebackers are a disaster. Just all of them terrible.
Boy, Patrick Queen sucks.
He has no idea what he's supposed to be doing out there. I was watching Bobby Wagner on Monday night, and I'm like, this is what an inside linebacker is supposed to play like.
Yeah, especially when
He actually tackles people.
especially when he's drilling streakers with
Yeah.
pink smoke bombs or whatever.
That was a great tackle.
He didn't even tackle him that hard, and then the streaker's pressing charges or something.
Stay off the field.
Yeah, good luck
Yeah.
with that, buddy.
Yeah, like
Jeez.
Adam Jones said, he helps people break their femur when they run on the field like that. I'm like,
Pretty sure that
agree.
once you enter the field of play for professional sporting events, you lose all rights.
Yeah, you're considered
You're
a threat.
trespassing.
Yeah, you're a danger. Ask Monica Seles what happened to her.
I know who
Somebody
that
came
is.
onto the tennis court and she got stabbed. So,
Oh,
you know,
Jeez.
yeah, it ruined her career. She was probably going to catch Steffi Graf in terms of Grand Slam total, and she got friggin' stabbed at I think it was at the French Open. Yeah, so
Goodness gracious.
not something people are going to take chances with when some idiot comes on the field. Even if you're
yeah.
gluing your hands to the floor like those weirdos in Minnesota during the playoffs last year, during the NBA postseason, or if you're doing some elaborate gender reveal or whatever the hell that was this week. I mean, I just
Call social services if that was a gender reveal. This guy shouldn't have a child.
no. So anyway,
Yeah, Bobby Wagner was great, and Patrick Queen was not.
yeah.
So just terrible out of Patrick Queen. He has no idea. So that's the first set of issues. And then with Harbaugh, it says controversial call on fourth down. I don't think it was controversial. You're trying to win. You're not trying not to lose. I mean, if it's fourth down and goal from the 3-yard line, you got to execute. So
Or you could kick a field goal.
no, I mean, kick a field goal. Did you not hear what I said about the defense? Did you miss that? You listen to some other podcasts right now? Because the defense sucks. So go up by 3 points. The Bills would have no issue marching right down the field like they did and getting positioned to kick a field goal to tie or score a touchdown to win anyway. So you wanted to be up by as many points as possible to try to win, make the Bills need to get a touchdown just to tie you. It made sense to me. Like you gotta try to get the 7 in that spot, I think. Particularly with how bad the defense is, you need more points than just the 3.
Yeah, but you also need a lead.
Yeah, you need points before you can worry about how many of them
You
you're
need
getting.
to have more than the opponent, and by not kicking the field goal, you made sure that you didn't have more points than the opponent. Like
You would be saying the complete opposite if it had worked. Like, oh, what ball's the size of Texas on Harbs to go for it on fourth down and get a touchdown and beat the Bills at home? Like, you can't criticize the decision on whether or not it worked.
But
Was
that's
it the
not
right
why we're
decision
like,
at the
because
time?
we wouldn't have been like, oh, that was such a great call. We wouldn't like, that was a dumb call. Good for him that it worked.
That's not what you would have said at all.
there's no way I would
You
be
and I
on this
both know
podcast.
that's not true, Corey. Come on.
I would not be on this podcast singing the praises of John Harbaugh for going for it in that situation and getting it. I thought they should have kicked the field goal. I get why they didn't. I'm not going to pretend like I don't get the logic, because everything you said, Evan, is very true, that the Bills are more than capable. But
the logic is a little flawed.
But the issue I have is I hate it when teams, like, if you have a chance to take a lead of 3 or more, I feel like you got to do it. Because the thing is, the other team then, if you are up by 2 or fewer, they can manipulate the rest of the clock and choke you out. Like, you can't get the ball back at that point, because they can say, hey, we get in field goal range, meander, 2 seconds left, kick a field goal. Whereas a touchdown, you can't plan when you're going to score your touchdown. You've got to score a touchdown. It puts scoreboard pressure on the opponent, knowing, okay, if we want to win the game, we got to score, and we can't time our score appropriately. We've got to score as quickly as possible, or when the opportunity presents itself. And when that's the case, if they go and score that touchdown, who knows? They leave time on the clock, Baltimore can answer. Whereas if it's a field goal that they need, they just say, hey, we're in field goal range. There's 2 minutes left. meander, kneel, burn your timeouts, kick
Go,
a field goal.
go
you
to
guys
overtime,
lose.
and now you get another chance.
Yeah, so like it's just, to me, I always want to be up by at least 3, but again, the defense is trash, and it probably wouldn't have made any difference because if they were up by 3, the Bills would have gone right down the field and scored a touchdown because the Ravens defense was doing absolutely nothing to stop them at that point in the game. It's just a matter of, how were you going to lose? It just, everything about that said, Baltimore's going to lose this game because they've lost control of it already. The fact that the game was tied already was inexcusable. Like, why did you let them tie the game? That's when you had already lost it. So, I'm not going to kill Harbaugh for it. I do think that they should have called a better play. You've got Lamar Jackson. You need to have a run option in there if Lamar Jackson's going to be running a play on the goal line. And I got to criticize Lamar. He had an open receiver. He didn't see him. He came back to him too late, and he threw a pick. And the pick there seems inconsequential because it's 4th down. But that's the difference.
17-yard difference.
That's the difference between having the ball at the 3 and having it at the 20. And like as soon as he threw that pick, I was like, okay, well, you guys have lost already. Like you can't win this game now. And sure enough, they didn't. So Ravens defense needs to figure it out.
Need to tighten that stuff up.
Yep, need to tighten it up. I feel like, again, if I'm going to criticize Harbaugh, it's not going to be necessarily because of the decision he made. Just the fact that the team consistently is blowing leads. Like at some point, bad defense or not, if you have a bad defense, your offense needs to figure out how to negotiate the end of the game. You need to pick up first downs. You need to move the chains. You need to be able to run the dang ball. That's part of holding a lead. Like when we pick games, and I think about teams that could cover in the back door, I'm always like, can this team run the ball and run the clock out if they're up by 13 points and the spread's 7? And if I don't trust them, I'm like, no, I'm not picking them to cover that big spread because I need you to get to the end of the football game without giving the ball up. And the Ravens are allergic to doing that, which they shouldn't be. They've got Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Like you should be the best running team in football when you have the best running quarterback in the history of football.
Right. Exactly. So that was the issue against Miami, is that Miami was down by 3 touchdowns. They didn't do any onside kicks or force any turnovers or anything. Just they kept stopping the Ravens on 3rd down because the Ravens couldn't move the ball in the run game to run the clock out. That's what they did in 2019. They'd be up by 2 scores with like 12 minutes left in the game, and then they would get the ball back after kickoff and just step on the other team's throat with the run game. Going like a 9 or 10 minute drive, and the game is over at that point.
That's one of the things
this team can't do that now.
That's one of the things that really bothers me about a lot of football coaches today in the NFL is that particularly, when you have a really good passing attack, good quarterback, decent receivers, you get that lead and you just start running the ball, even if you don't really have a good running game. And while I understand what the philosophy is, it's meant to be, we want to run as much time off the clock as possible. We don't want to stop the clock with incompletions because that gives the other team more time with the ball, more time to try and come back and potentially tie this game. But the thing is, if you've got a really good passing attack, I want to have the ball in my quarterback's hands as much as possible. Even if, you go 3 and out because he throws 3 incompletions and your opponent goes and scores a touchdown or something, makes the game a little bit closer. Well, I'm not going to go into this assuming that my quarterback is going to continue throwing incompletions on every single drive. Next drive, I'm going to trust that my quarterback's going to get it done. And if there's 2 drives in a row, then I know there's no way that my really good quarterback is going to mess around and screw up 3 drives in a row. Eventually, he's going to get it right. We're going to score another touchdown. We're going to be good, and we will have taken some time off the clock through that process.
Tom Brady made a lot of mediocre to bad Patriots defenses look really, really good because when they got ahead, he would get the ball and he would just short, quick passes, move the chains, even if they didn't have a running game, take 8.5 minutes off the clock and score a touchdown. And then suddenly it's like, hey, the Patriots defense only gave up 17 points. I'm like, yeah, they only had like 5 defensive possessions because Brady was just choking the life out of the opponent.
Yeah, you don't have to run the ball to run a ton of time off the clock. You can do it with the passing game if you do it smart.
I mean, look at that goofy-ass game the Saints played against the Ravens a few years ago where Baltimore didn't even get the friggin' ball in the first quarter because the Saints were just like, hey, we're going to take up the whole damn clock and still not score.
You got that backwards, but yeah.
Oh, well, I had that. What did I say?
The Ravens had the ball the whole quarter and didn't score.
Well, the Saints had the ball the whole quarter.
Thought the Ravens had the ball the whole quarter and didn't
No,
score.
the Saints had the ball the whole quarter in that game.
Oh, God.
I remember that. Like it was clear the Saints were just like, yeah, we're gonna run the ball, and then Taysom Hill couldn't get in the end zone because he's useless, according to you, and Corey, and me sometimes.
And according to you as well, you hate him.
I don't hate Taysom Hill. I just hated him being on the quarterback depth chart when he wasn't. Whatever. So we'll move on to some other losers, namely Baker Mayfield.
Oof.
God, he sucks. He's
he
done.
ever.
He can't play. He's done. Like I'm over him. Like he's running his mouth still, even though he's just absolute cheeks. Like I'm tired of him. This isn't just resentment for the fact that he can't get DJ Moore the ball. This is also just I'm over Baker Mayfield's shtick.
Yeah, I am
Come
too. I get that he was hurt or whatever in Cleveland. As far as I know, he's healthy right now. This is not, something that we can blame an injury on at this point in time. It's interesting because we see plenty of players who are not highly touted coming out of college, players that are drafted really late in the draft, guys like Tom Brady, players that are not drafted at all, guys like Tony Romo and Arian Foster, who go on to have superb careers in the NFL.
Kurt Warner, but
sure
deserves a mention.
I feel like those guys, they had their failures, whether it was in high school or in college, that, they had already experienced that. And so by the time they got to the NFL, they'd already proven that they can be, what is the word?
Good.
Well, no, not just that they can be good, but that they can deal with adversity. They can be resilient and fight through, tough times. Baker Mayfield, I don't think ever really had that when he was in college. I mean, he was good through college.
He was a walk-on at two schools.
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then maybe Baker Mayfield isn't a good example of that. So I don't know. So I don't know what his deal is because he does not.
He's just playing
He's
bad.
not showing me any sort of ability to be resilient at this point in his career.
I feel like this is a case where this is a guy who, again, like Evan and I said, he walked on at Texas Tech, your boy Cliff Kingsbury. And he walked on over there. He played well his freshman year as a starter. And then he was basically told that Davis Webb was going to take his job. And so he left. He goes to Oklahoma. He walks on there and becomes one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. And it seems like Baker has just gotten through everything with this big chip on his shoulder and just being like, I'm going to out-grit you and all this crap. But you get to the NFL, it's like that crap doesn't work in the league anymore. Like, it gets to a point where work smarter, not harder takes over, right? Like Tom Brady obviously worked his ass off to become Tom Brady. Like he was a 6th round pick. We know the whole story, but he was good in college too. Like he wasn't a bad college quarterback.
No,
but like it wasn't like he just went out there and yelled and was beating his chest in training camp saying, I'm the best damn quarterback ever. Like he had his cockiness or his confidence in himself was kind of like sits back and says, yeah, you'll see. Like kind of quiet, keeps to himself, but like y'all see one of these days. Whereas Baker never shuts the hell up. Like, and that rubs people the wrong way. It's gotten on my nerves at this point. And at some point you also just have to look at it and say, look, man, you've got legitimate physical limitations in the NFL. You're undersized and you're not super athletic. So you got to figure out a way to operate within those confines. Whereas Baker, his whole career in college, he seemed to be able to just barely outrun people or figure out a way to get over the fact that he's not tall. And in the NFL, it's like, dude, you've got to work within what you got here. And like Drew Brees was a short quarterback who did not have particularly great athletic gifts. But you notice with Drew Brees, when he played, he was like just his head was like peeking over the line all the time. Like he was squeezing every inch out of himself possible because he knew he had to. Whereas Baker acts like he can run down the field like Lamar Jackson, and he can tower over the line like he's Ben Roethlisberger or something like that. And he can do neither of those things.
Yeah.
He had like 8 batted passes that were supposed to go to DJ
Oh
Moore.
my God!
Like just like, can you please find a passing lane, dude? Can you figure it out? The big guy that's running at you is going to put his hands up. You got to find a way to get the ball past him.
How many times can you throw a pass and have it batted down at the line of scrimmage before you eventually make an adjustment? And he refused to make an adjustment. You know, it's interesting because, you know, I look at a guy like Cam Newton, who one of the biggest things I had an issue with Cam early in his career and through a lot of his career was, you know, he would talk so much when he was doing well. And then as soon as he had like any kind of a bad performance or the team around him melted down, like you would just see him sulking on the sideline, towel over his head and everything. And I never really liked that because, you know, you can't just, you know, if you're going to be the loud talker and everything, you can't just disappear and try to like fade into the background. But at the same time, you also like at some point you got to back up the talk. You know, like I appreciated Baker Mayfield early in his career, like staying confident, like, you know, continuing to talk even when he had some down games, because that told me, okay, he's confident. You know, he trusts he's going to get it back. Well, dude, it's been a minute since you had it. Eventually, you got to calm down with the talk if you can't back it up on the field, and clearly he can't.
It's also worth pointing out that the Panthers head coach is probably maybe he's the 31st best head coach in the league. Probably 32nd. Like, Matt Rule sucks as well. So, you know,
Broncos actually kind of did something this week. So, yeah, he might be the 32nd.
Yeah. So, you know, there's Hackett and Cliff Kingsbury.
He had a decent game. Russ played well.
Did he, though?
He lost to the Raiders, though. Like that's anyway. We'll talk.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I agree. Matt Rule sucks, and the Panthers personnel is terrible, and all that stuff. But I still have 2 functioning eyeballs and can see bad quarterback play, even in the face of
the whole
bad,
thing's a mess.
Right? Like Joe Burrow had a crummy team when he was a rookie. His offensive line was bad. His receivers weren't that good because he didn't have Jamar Chase yet. And he still looked the part of a franchise quarterback, even in spite of the fact that his numbers weren't that good because his team was garbage. And this is not that. Right? No. Like, I can still watch a quarterback and say, okay, that guy's got it. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not putting up great numbers this year. But you can still watch him play and say, okay, that guy's still a great quarterback just because you can see what that looks like. We've watched enough football. I mean, we're all a bunch of old geezers now. We've seen like 20 years worth of football where we're actually paying attention. We know what good quarterback play looks like. We know what bad quarterback play looks like. We know how to extrapolate that from the team around him. We know how to isolate, this is what a good quarterback looks like. This is what a good QB does in this situation. And Baker ain't making the cut on any of that.
No.
So now that I'm done slamming my former boy Baker Mayfield, again, this is the second time I've done the creepy guy ignoring his girlfriend and looking to the next girl meme. I did it with Jameis to Baker, and now it's Baker to Burrow. I'm sorry, guys.
You have a thing for Heisman winners, I guess.
I mean, I'm a sucker for him. Sorry, Kyler, you're not my type.
Lamar's not your type either.
Well, I've been a Lamar truther since day one, but Lamar has so thoroughly proven himself that I don't even have to do it anymore.
He won an MVP unanimously.
Unanimous, yeah. I mean, he's incredible.
Bryce Young is next on your list then.
Oh boy.
Well, no, because Joe Burrow is still my boy. Like, he's still good. So.
Oh, okay.
For now.
I think he's for real. I think he's going to stick.
I mean, we thought that about Baker.
I feel much more strongly about Joe Burrow.
I do too, but we did think that about Baker.
Yeah. We blamed it all on Odell too. We owe Odell an apology.
Yeah, we do.
We really do. Like maybe we didn't maybe blame it all on him, but we blamed some of it on him, and none of it was his fault. So, you know, And by we, I mean the collective, universal we that said,
Yeah.
"Oh, Odell's just a bad team." No. Baker just sucks. Like
Apparently.
it's fine to say. So we have a QB controversy in Dallas.
Yeah.
And the reason it's a QB controversy is because Jerry Jones wants it to be.
Well,
not
also
it actually
because
is.
Cooper Rush is the best quarterback to ever play for the Dallas Cowboys. He's done something that Dak Prescott couldn't do, that Tony Romo couldn't do, that Roger Staubach couldn't do, that Troy Aikman couldn't do. He has started his career 4-0.
That's nice. Clearly, that's not influencing me, but
Didn't Troy Aikman lose all the games his rookie year?
he won one.
I think, they went like 1
I
something.
thought they went 1-15.
and the one was against the commies.
Well, I think back then, and something
and
like
the
that.
commies were good, so I don't know. It's just
the
weird.
R words back in the day.
Wait, no, that wasn't Troy Aikman. I think
In
that was-
'89, yes, it was.
Aikman was a
they
rookie.
went 1-15 that year.
They were terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
That was like
that's
that
why
was-
they
because I
drafted
know
him.
that like the Cowboys' first 2 years in existence, I think they won one game. Yeah, back in like the 60s.
Okay, I don't know anything
They
about that.
Yeah, but they won like 1 or 2 games over those 2 years. They tied 2 games, and all of those games were against Washington.
That seems on brand.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cooper Rush has looked pretty darn good. He certainly outplayed Carson Wentz, but that's not a high bar to clear.
He's actually getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is getting like 95 yards every single game that he plays with Cooper Rush.
Appreciate it. Not that it's helping my season that much. Maybe it will. Who knows?
He's had a couple of pretty good games.
He
in a
has.
row.
I've
Despite an egregious drop last week.
dude. He's the only reason I won a game so far. And he barely, along with the divine intervention of Corey, taking away a half a point from Steven, because we changed the rules and Steven's furious and I don't blame him. That's the only reason I have a win. So no beef with CD Lamb. I had him on my kill list. I typed it out on my phone and then he won me my game, so I removed him.
To be fair, that is a rule that we've had since last year.
I understand, but the fact that you're applying it to a defense, especially teams, and you have to specifically go in and manually do it,
Yeah.
that makes it tougher to stomach. But anyway, Cooper Rush looks pretty good. The Cowboys, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, winning this week was not going to get the Ewing Theory committee out there, but if they somehow beat the Eagles with Cooper Rush under center, we're going to have a conversation. Now, that doesn't mean I think that Dak has any risk of being replaced. He makes way too much money. So that's not going to happen. But that's a doozy of a situation for a quarterback who looks very, very bad. As Cousin Sal very eloquently said, that Dak Prescott removed his thumb from his ass just long enough to break it, in that Tampa game. So, we'll see what happens when he actually comes back. But gotta give Cooper Rush his props. Like, I think we liked Cooper Rush as a backup coming into this year, right? Like, he did some stuff last
a whole
year.
lot
never heard
about
of
him. Like, I mean, well, yeah, I knew that he played last year. I
He
knew
won a
that he won a game and that he played better than Andy Dalton did. But
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Starting quarterback for the Saints.
I mean, like Andy Dalton was terrible last year, so it really didn't take a whole lot to be better than him. And I kind of attributed some of that to just, okay, well, nobody has film on this guy, so it kind of makes sense that he comes in for one game and does well. But can he actually sustain that? And he's looked pretty decent. I mean, he's looked good enough. I went ahead and picked him up in fantasy, kind of, sort of hoping that Dak Prescott, his thumb will not be healthy enough by week 7, because that's the Eagles' bye week. So I need somebody to put in for Jalen Hurts. And I think the Cowboys are playing like Detroit that week or something. And I want some Cowboys quarterback action for that week if I can get it.
the Lions' defense is stinky.
It sure is. Their offense is fantastic and scores a lot of points, but that just forces the other team to throw a lot, which all the better for me if Cooper Rush is the starting quarterback that week.
Yeah, they're giving me some. I don't want to say a specific year because it happened so many years, but many years of the Saints were just Drew Brees scoring all these points and the team only winning 7 out of 16 games because the defense was terrible. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Dallas. I like their defense. Micah Parsons is legit. Trayvon Diggs is, proving himself to be every bit as good as we thought he might be. The criticism about him being just a ball hawk that gets beat all the time. Clearly, either he's taking that to heart or it's just not happening this year, but he looks great. Corey, I think you meant to say stinks for Melvin Gordon, not stings.
Yes.
Anyway, speaking of stinks, Matt Stafford stinks. He was terrible.
Had that one all the way. Didn't y'all pick the Rams to cover?
Yeah, we probably did. Yeah, I know I did. That was a whiff. I mean, let's keep it real though. Jimmy Garoppolo, man, like he was the other team's quarterback, so you gotta understand where we come from. But anyway, Stafford was bad. He got sacked like 7 times. He threw a pick 6. He just, I don't know if it's his elbow. I don't know if it's the offensive line's bad. I don't know if he's just, normally like this, which he kind of is. He does make a lot of mistakes. But, yeesh. Like, the Rams, pretty bad.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that his progression on every pass play goes cup, Higbee, cup, and then somewhere at the bottom is Allen Robinson.
Well, but you forgot
that's Skoranek is before Allen Robinson.
But you forgot the play where he points to where he's going to throw the interception before he throws it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so good. Anyway.
Yeah, y'all picked the Rams to cover. Well, no, it was San Francisco -1.5, but y'all picked the Rams to do something.
We did. That was a mistake.
Oops. For me, I think it's the Rams team as a whole. I feel like they're kind of a finesse team, and the 49ers are the opposite of that. I guess smash mouth or whatever. The 49ers just run the ball right at you. Their defense is ferocious and hard-hitting, and that seems like the exact, diametrical opposite and the exact key to beating the Rams is to almost literally beat them. Like what we saw on Sunday night. I mean, the Rams couldn't block in the run or pass game. They got ran over on defense. It's just that's not their style of football. And
the
it's a
49ers
bad matchup
survived
for them.
Cooper Kupp getting his hands on the ball 14 times.
Well, because Cooper Kupp is great, as everybody who listens to this podcast should know.
But apparently, him getting his hands on the ball 14 times was not enough.
No,
close. He scored 9
because
points.
he's one guy. There's 21 other guys on the field at a time.
Yeah, one of those guys is Deebo Samuel, and he is incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about. Actually, before we get to this, let's talk about Chiefs versus Bucks. So the Chiefs kicked the crap out of Tampa. I think we all picked the Chiefs to cover. We had a line that moved significantly because we thought the game was not going to be held in Tampa. Then it was, but we were all pretty steadfast anyway. We're like, we'd like to have the extra points, but we don't really need them. And
we didn't.
We didn't. Yeah. So Kansas City took care of business. Have we ever seen a team fumble the opening kickoff and then win? Like, I don't
think so.
I feel like I've never seen that actually happen, and that's exactly what Tampa did.
It's very tough to think that we've ever seen that happen.
It's like you might as well have deferred for both halves. Like you never get a
well,
possession.
that's exactly what happened. The Chiefs wound up having the ball first in both halves.
Yeah. So.
And with a short field in the first of those, I mean, as soon as that happens, I mean, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. It's game over.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady played a fantastic game. Mike Evans had a fantastic game. It wasn't enough.
Well, and the alarming thing for the Bucs for me was, it's one thing to get lit up by Patrick Mahomes, but Mahomes wasn't the one doing the lighting up. It was the fact that they couldn't stop the run. And that's the opposite.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a great game.
They couldn't stop Kansas City's run game when they're the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's
an indictment.
That's the opposite of the two brands here. The Chiefs are not supposed to be able to run the ball that well, and the Bucks are supposed to be the ultimate run-stuffing team.
Yeah.
Neither of those things happened. So,
also Patrick Mahomes also beat them because he's amazing and can do things that nobody else can do. That spin flip to CEH was
that's a one-of-one play. Like one guy in the league makes that play. So he was awesome. But I mean, at the same time, like I don't know what to make of the Chiefs because they played 4 games and twice their offenses looked just immaculate, and the other 2 times it's looked very pedestrian and beatable. one of which they actually lost to the Colts of all teams. They probably should have lost to the Chargers if not for just some ridiculously bad decision-making in the red zone by Herbert and by the coaching staff to have a gassed player be the target on a hurry-up play for no reason. But like the Chiefs seem like they're kind of up and down so far, which I guess makes sense. They've got new personnel. And I don't know how much of this for the Bucs, whose defenses look great so far until this game. I mean, how much of this could be just the fact that they didn't practice at home? They had no idea where the hell they were going to play. I mean, I'm not saying that's why they got their asses kicked, but that can't help, right? The fact that the players all probably live in Tampa. Who knows if their friggin' houses are underwater or not? You know, like that type of stuff in a game like football, where it's heavily driven by adrenaline and emotion, you've got to be up for the games. And if you've got a lot going on with your personal lives because of something like a natural disaster, who knows? Like, it just feels like this Bucs team in general, not just this game, they're just having a really hard time getting out of their blocks. I mean, they've had the injuries, they had the suspension of Mike Evans, which probably cost them the Packer game. I mean, they just, it seems like it's week 5 and we still haven't seen them as a complete unit. And yet they're still 2-2.
Yeah, they're
and
still
their division
2-2.
sucks, and they'll probably still win that one. So
They're still 2-2. Chris Godwin was back this week and looked pretty good, and he's getting healthier. Mike Evans is back and he looks fantastic. I still don't really know how much Julio Jones is going to factor into this offense as the season goes on. You figure maybe a little bit more now that what's his name officially retired. Cole Beasley.
Well, Cole Beasley was out there just to fill in.
Yeah, he wasn't really doing a whole lot as it was, but that's one less mouth to feed. So you figure, and Julio looked pretty decent before he got hurt in week 1.
But that's
so
because
Before he got hurt, he looked decent before he got hurt in week 1. What was the before?
he had a few
Week
catches beforehand.
There was 0.
He had a few catches early in that game before he got hurt.
Yes. Like,
Okay,
but I
he
feel
gets hurt all the time.
You could say that about Julio every year. He looked great until he got hurt in week 1. I mean, yeah, I know. That's the story of Julio the last 5 years. So.
Right. Yeah. He's
But
not somebody you can count on.
I think the Bucs are going to figure it out. I think that they are going to gel. I'm very nervous about my pick of them making it to the Super Bowl to lose to the Bills, but mostly just because the Eagles look, even better than I expected. It was kind of between those two teams for me to pick, and I wound up going with the Bucs just because they felt more established. I'm maybe regretting that a little bit, but I still think the Bucs have a chance to get there. I'm not writing them off from that by any means.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early October. We've still got another,
Several months.
13 more games left to see what happens. I mean, yeah, and again, the fact that they're 2-2 despite the turmoil and despite the fact that the teams they lost to, you would normally be like, okay, that losing to the Packers is not a bad loss. I mean, they're 3-1, and losing to the Chiefs is never anything to get worked up about. It's just that they haven't looked that good, and that's partially because they just haven't had their team out there. But
yeah,
I think they'll get it together too. I certainly, people are kind of like, I guess they're hoping that this is the doom and gloom end of Tom Brady's season, but he looked good this week. He's looked more or less pretty good this season. It's just a matter of getting his guys back, and at that point, they'll be right there in the playoffs because there ain't anybody else ready to take this division from them, right? Like the Saints,
No,
we
man,
thought
the
could
Panthers.
contend, but the Saints look bad, and then you've got the Panthers and the Falcons who are both just not real. Like the Falcons are a little frisky, but they're not division winning frisky, no way. So we'll see how the Bucs season unfolds, and we'll see if this is Tom Brady's swan song and how that ends up.
Well, he's
going.
only 45, so
he's got a few more years in him.
Well, especially if
he might play till he's 80.
Mm-hmm.
if he's untethered by the bounds of marriage soon. You never know.
Oh no.
Yes, but something tells me he's going to work it out with his wife. They're too.
They'll figure out something.
They're too great together. So I'm pulling for him. Want Tom Brady to be happy. Want everybody to be happy if they can be.
Yeah, they can't figure out how to split hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, that's a y'all problem. Yeah. Come on.
All right, so we're
just give it all to me.
So we root for happy marriages on this podcast. We don't wish ill upon anybody's personal life. So
no.
Especially if it means Tom Brady's going to play till he's 80, because that's just going to make everybody mad, except for me, because I think it'll be fun. If he's still good.
At this point, I don't I don't have any bad feelings toward Tom Brady at this point. I'm over it.
Yeah, Corey's over it. Peyton Manning's on TV being awesome. Watch the Manning cast.
Yeah.
Shout out to Miles Teller for spoofing him on SNL.
That was amazing.
That was the only good part of the skit.
It really was.
The rest of the skit was not funny. But,
and I mean, the rest of the skit, I felt like it was like purposefully bad, but it was also just bad.
Yeah, but Miles Teller killed it. I was like, it took me a while to figure out that was Miles Teller.
I had no idea who it was. I was like, which cast member is this?
Yeah, well, I think Teller hosted this show.
Yeah, he hosted, and a lot of times the host is not, as he said in the skit.
They're not usually in the cold open.
They're often not in the cold open, but yeah.
Anyway, that's your little SNL update. Let's talk about Tua. This is not great. We talked about this last week. We talked about Tua being concussed. They let him back
or maybe not being concussed. We had no idea what actually happened there. Like, clearly he was wobbly. We all feel pretty confident, but at the same time, we're not neurologists.
Well, the neurologist they hired to determine whether or not he was concussed
is not a neurologist anymore,
and he has been dismissed. Yes. So that indicates to me that he was probably concussed. Because why would they fire the guy whose job it is to say he's concussed or not if he got it right?
I mean, it could just be.
Well, the Chargers doctor hasn't been fired for stabbing the starting quarterback.
That's true, but he is being sued. So anyway, Tua suffered a really unfortunate injury, really tough to watch on Thursday Night Football.
It's never good when I forget what it's called, but like where your fingers kind of go like all rigid and like they're like it's really scary. We saw this happen. I believe it was a Chargers receiver or tight end, if I remember correctly, like a year or two ago in the end zone, went up for the ball, came down awkwardly, concussion, and you saw that same that same kind of hand motion where like the fingers all go kind of like haywire and they go rigid. And we were all wondering then, like, what is that? Like, what causes somebody? And we learned at that point. So, we saw similar tweets this time again, informing people of what that is. But like, I already knew as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I remember this from a couple of years ago. Like, that's a concussion and a really serious one. Because when it gets to that point, now you're talking potential structural damage in the brainstem, in the vertebrae of the spine. Like that's really problematic.
Yeah. We also understand that brain injuries, you have your first one, they can heal and you can make a full recovery, but when you re-aggravate it when it's not fully healed, that's when you get into really dangerous territory. Like
you get into life-threatening territory potentially.
Yeah, so Tua's already been ruled out for Week 5.
As he should be.
It's
probably should be ruled out for the next few games at least.
Yeah, like I don't know how confident you can be in his health for the rest of the season, honestly. Like, it's just you suffered back-to-back apparent head injuries. That's something that you simply can't ignore. Like, it can't just be, oh well, he's feeling fine now, so we're good to go. It feels like there's got to be extra protocol at this point with him, and I don't care if he's watching MacGruber with the coach on the plane and having a good old time with it. I need a little more than that to determine that he's healthy and that this isn't going to become a life-threatening situation or a seriously recurring issue for him.
So at DeMatha, we use a service where we have every single incoming student, regardless of whether they're an athlete or not. Like even all the cross-country athletes have to do this, and we're not a contact sport. Every incoming student has to take a baseline concussion test. Basically, it gives you baseline readings so that if you ever suffer a concussion, whether it's sports related or not, we have your baseline readings, and we can test you as you recover from that concussion, and we can know when you have returned back to your baseline. We know when you have recovered to where you were before, specific to each individual. I hope that the NFL has a similar system in place where they, one would have hoped that they would have already done this, but and just because he suffered a more egregious second concussion on Thursday doesn't inherently prove that he was not fully recovered from the first concussion or whatever happened the previous week, but it's a pretty good indication that he was not fully recovered. One would hope that they're going to make sure that he is truly, fully recovered before they let him sniff a football again, because this has been such a black mark on the NFL for years. Their denial of the mental effects of football on retired athletes. And we're finally starting to rectify some of that. We're finally starting to make some of that right. And we're finally starting to acknowledge the serious health risks that are associated with playing football in terms of brain injuries. This felt like a massive step backward this week. And that's really what, obviously I feel for Tua, and I hope he recovers. Whether he plays football again or not, I couldn't care less about it. I hope that he recovers enough to lead a normal, healthy life. But for the league, this is really bad.
Oh
Yeah, I agree with that. This is something that league. I mean, this is something that the league should not let happen. And it played out on national TV in front of everybody. We're all humans here, and we don't want to see anybody get horribly, horribly injured. And it seems like there was some sort of loophole or something, some sort of oversight in the concussion protocol into a specific situation this week that didn't he come back in the game last Sunday?
Yeah, last Sunday.
After he was wobbly?
Yeah, he came back.
Yeah, so after he came back in the game last Sunday after being all wobbly and stuff, and then to play like 4 days later, like it seems like there were some steps skipped or steps that were just missing.
I feel like it.
For that to
I
happen
feel like it could have been a quote unquote saving face sort of move by the Dolphins, where if they know that he's concussed but they let him come back in the game, well, now they have to say he passed concussion protocol in order to come back into the game, which means you can't then hold him out of Thursday night football for a concussion, because if that's the case, he shouldn't have been back in the game at all. So obviously you hate to think that a team would put a player at risk just to try and save face, but you wound up just with more egg on your face after it was all said and done.
Oh, yeah. It is worth pointing out that the game of football is inherently extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, you can't – you're never going to eliminate this. Like, people are going to suffer – as long as we play football, people are going to suffer head injuries, and it's going to happen.
And all sorts of injuries, right? Not even
But
head
there
injuries,
are certain things that we
every other part
have
of the body.
to do. And we need to take this more seriously. That was another thing that kind of bothered me after this last game, after Thursday night, where McDaniel came out and said, thankfully it was just a concussion.
Just a concussion.
And
you only have one brain. It's the most important organ.
There's an argument to be made that maybe he was just saying, it was only a concussion, as in it wasn't a concussion and something else. But we need to do better at educating people about the seriousness of head injuries. Like this is more serious than the only other injury you can suffer on a football field that I would put at or maybe above that level would be a compound fracture, just because that's immediately life-threatening, like right then and there. But head injuries are life-threatening, potentially in the immediate future, but certainly long-term, it's more dangerous than any other injury you can suffer on the football field.
Or the back injury to Ryan Shazier on that same field.
And again, like that may not be specifically head, but that's spine, and that's all connected.
Yeah.
Like anything nervous system that we're talking about, like that, it doesn't get more severe than that, and we need to start treating it that way. We need to start speaking that way. Anything that could potentially be seen as downplaying the severity of that injury needs to be nixed from our vocabulary pronto, because it's just that is teaching people incorrectly that concussions aren't that big of a deal compared to an ACL tear or, a broken, clavicle or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with all that. So we'll move forward. Melvin Gordon stinks.
Mm-hmm.
He sure does. 4 fumbles this season already.
Good
We're
grief.
4 games in the season. He's fumbled 4 times.
And that's bad news for the Broncos
And
because
he-
Javonte Williams is now out. So
Well, they poached your boy Latavius Murray from the Saints practice squad.
it seems like Melvin Gordon's going to get the bulk of the carries, which would be
He fumbled away the game this week.
that's what he does. He fumbled away the
Yeah.
Seahawks game too. I'm not going to forget that. Although
Yeah.
Javonte Williams,
I'm not
also-
going to forget that either because he was on my fantasy team. And then he's like, oh, well, let me just put this ball right on the turf for everybody at the goal line. Like, oh, my God.
That's a
This
killer.
guy's a bum.
That's a
I'm
killer.
tired of him.
Okay.
Why is it always Wisconsin running backs, right? Melvin Gordon and remember
So
Monty
Ohio State
Ball.
quarterbacks and Wisconsin running backs. What is up with the Big Ten?
Monty
Yeah.
Ball. Oh my God.
I forgot about Monty Ball.
Yeah, exactly.
With
Exactly.
with 2 E's.
Well, then there's also Wisconsin's very own Russell Wilson. How about him?
Yeah, exactly.
How did they say it on the fantasy floors? Russell Wilson.
Jeez.
I don't know.
All right, so before we get to our Week 5 picks, we'll give credit where credit is due. Week 4 lone wolf selections. Corey was alone in picking the Eagles to cover the 6.5-point spread against Jacksonville. That looked a little hairy early
They
on.
were down 14-0.
Yeah, but Trevor Lawrence did you a solid and coughed up 4 fumbles. Somehow they didn't recover any of them.
Yeah,
That's really, really strange. But so the Eagles ended up winning by 8 points in that one. So
Yep.
a win's a win.
Yeah.
Corey seemingly also wants credit for being a lone wolf to pick the Ravens to cover a 3-point spread in a push.
Yeah.
I'm not giving.
Well, we were both
No,
right
I
too.
don't really get credit for that, but
You get credit for nothing.
I took the risk. I took the gamble. I was the only one who went for it, and none of us won.
It's not really a risk.
That's not
it's
a risk.
spread.
Come on. This is some weak sauce right here. Right? You're trying to get a participation trophy over Eric and myself when we both also participated. Come on now.
Corey doesn't need a participation trophy because he's in first place.
Yeah.
I am.
He's
Yeah.
all alone.
Why
with
is this
one
even
more
on the sheet?
But I will say, Evan and I are even money for the season right now, and Corey is obviously better than that because he's one game better than us. So,
Yep. Evan had a couple of lone wolf picks. That's why he gets to eliminate a team before me this week.
fair enough. Evan was alone in picking the Seahawks to cover the 4-point spread against the Lions, and he also picked the 49ers to cover the 1.5-point spread against LA. Both of those were correct.
course.
So
Add it all the way.
Way to go. Had some shout outs here for some quality performances. Congrats to James Daly and Sean Dunn and Michael Johnson. We got a lot of folks in here. I love it.
Yeah. They all got 9 games right. James was the closest on the tiebreaker, so he won the fan contest for this week.
Nice. So congrats to you guys for the winning week. I think did we? I went 9-6-1. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did the same as me. So way to go. James Daly is tied with Evan and myself for second on the season with 33 wins. So he is also even money.
Yeah.
Corey leads with 34, so we're doing okay. All right, so now we're gonna do our little elimination game. Since Evan was tied with Corey for the highest win total, but had the more lone wolf correct selections, he gets to eliminate a team first. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, I get to eliminate a team, and I'm eliminating the team that went by the team last year, Washington.
I gotta pick
It's done.
somebody. This is gonna be tough.
Yeah, so Evan has now eliminated the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Washington Commies. I am going to eliminate somebody that Evan has already eliminated. I'm finally going to jump over to the AFC. I am going to go ahead and nix the Houston Texans. So they add to the Giants, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Commies, who I had already eliminated.
The Texans, the only winless team.
Yeah,
They're 0-3-1.
Shame.
hate to see it.
Damn shame.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to eliminate a team that this is going to be fun because I never thought, well, actually I kind of did, but I never thought in my lifetime I'd be selecting them for extension this early. This team I'm very confident will not be making the playoffs, and they hail from Pittsburgh. The Steelers are the worst team in football.
Oh, my.
Worst team in football. Book it.
I'm going to have to mention this to my dad, unfortunately.
Would he argue the point at this point? They're so bad. They're so bad.
I don't know.
They're so bad.
They're 14-point underdogs this week.
That might be the biggest line you'll see all year.
Certainly the biggest line we've seen all season by
Yes,
by,
that
4
might
points.
be the standard for the biggest line, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so I'm killing the Steelers, and even if they're not the worst team in football, they're not making the playoffs. The division's too good, and well, they're bad. So, do you trust Kenny Pickett? Because I sure don't.
He ran for a couple touchdowns.
I haven't seen him play in the NFL.
But he did not have a single one of his passes hit the ground.
Good for
13
him.
passes, 10 completions, 3 picks.
I don't care about any of that. He threw 3 picks. Come on.
He hit Pickens a few times.
That's adorable.
Pickens,
to
and
in
picks.
Pittsburgh. That's wonderful. That's just delightful. Okay, so let's do a little best and worst before we get to our Week 5 picks. Best quarterback per Football Outsiders quick reads was Tom Brady. We talked about it. He had a very strong game. Nobody really noticed it because he was behind pretty much the whole time, but it all counts the same. And the worst quarterback of the week, who we have already smashed, is Baker Mayfield. He sucks.
Woof.
Real bad. Hey, but shout out to Carson Wentz. It wasn't you this time. I thought it might be again. Good God.
He certainly made a push for it.
He is buns. Let's move to running backs. The best running back by total DYAR and rushing, and the worst also, were Miles Sanders was the best, and Jonathan Taylor was the worst. That is a fascinating turn of events from what we would have expected to see this year.
Expected the opposite.
Yes.
If anything. And Miles Sanders is a good running back, but we've seen him as the worst once or twice.
Or we've just seen him as a non-entity because he never gets the ball.
Yeah. So
Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor was incredible last year.
And granted, Jonathan Taylor's injured. He's out already for tomorrow night against the Broncos. But still, even before he got hurt, he did not do a whole lot.
Shout out Jonathan Taylor for helping me win my league last year, but looks like that was a one-and-done situation.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I hope not. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot.
He's a really talented player.
And he's a really good dude.
His team's terrible.
Where'd he go to college
His
at?
team is awful.
He went to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Wisconsin guy,
He
too.
is.
Yeah, so we were hating on
He was
He
looking like their one hope.
I mean, he's still good. Like I don't doubt
I
his
still
talent.
think that he's good.
Yeah, he's on a terrible team. Like their line sucks, and Matt Ryan is washed. He gets no help from the passing game. I mean, it's just a bad situation.
Yep.
Anyway, wide receiver or pass catchers, I should say, whatever, doesn't matter. Mike Evans, best of the week.
He was fantastic.
Makes sense. Seeing Tom Brady had a good connection against the Chiefs.
He was well rested as well.
Yes,
Yes,
well rested.
Yes, he was.
And then Rondale Moore of the Cardinals was the worst receiver of the week, but that didn't stop the Cardinals from winning because they were playing Baker Mayfield, who sucks,
And Matt Rule.
who also
And Matt
sucks.
Rule.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. I said last week, Cliff Kingsbury might actually not be the worst or even the second worst coach in the NFL. He
Right,
might be top 30.
So who are we?
Apparently
feeling,
he is, just barely.
Who are we feeling for a first coach fired? Is it Matt Rule? I feel
It's
like
Matt Rule.
I feel like it's got to be Matt Rule, right?
It has to be. Like, I don't know. Like, the only reason that I struggle to say that it will be Matt Rule is because I feel like the Panthers owner is just too much of an idiot, and so he might not fire him, even though he absolutely deserves to be fired, because Matt Rule should have already been fired.
I don't
Matt
think
Rule shouldn't have
Rule's
been
players
hired.
liked
Like,
him.
this was a bad hire from day one.
Yeah, it was a bad hire from day one, but like he should have been fired well before now.
Yeah,
The fact that he's made it to this point suggests that the owner just is not going to do it.
I mean, they fired Joe Brady last year at the end of the season, but somehow didn't fire his boss. It didn't make any sense. Like, Joe Brady's good.
Yeah, I thought Joe Brady was a genius,
Well,
right?
not when he's working under Matt Rule, apparently. So,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
that
they
say?
fired the wrong guy.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into these picks. All games are against the spread. The spread is from around 540 today because your boy was loafing on making the picks. I had a thing at 4:45, and so I told myself do it before the thing, and of course I forgot. And then I get into my car. It's like 5:35, and I'm like, oh crap, I never did that. So, but nevertheless, these are the lines that we are going with. So Thursday night football. So tomorrow night, Colts at Broncos. Colts as a road favorite. Favored by 3 points. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, is it?
That does not sound right.
Maybe I
Just play guess the lines here, but that's.
I may have switched them around.
I was gonna say.
Oh, jeez. The first one.
Well, the video that. Okay, yeah. So I mixed this around. So Broncos are favored by 3.
I was gonna
Yes.
say, man, I'm gonna jump all over these
So
6 points.
I'm gonna need to fix that on our sheets.
I was gonna say that's the easiest bet ever. It's like, really?
Yeah,
Come
my
on.
bad.
Let's see. Okay,
Oh,
so anyway,
good grief.
the Colts are at Broncos and Denver is favored by 3 at home. That makes the game a little bit more complicated, but
A lot more complicated.
I'm still going Broncos.
me too. But it was so much easier when I was getting 3. Like, that's a joke.
So do we have to? So for the online form, do we have to wait for you to send a new one, or just
No,
fill it
you
out?
can still do it but do it as Broncos -3 because I will fix that,
Okay.
and it'll just be on the same form.
Okay.
That's crazy. Oh, yeah, that's fun. See, that's nice though. Kept me on my toes there. I was like, wait, what? That seems like a ridiculous spread. Like, what? Okay, I'm taking Denver too.
Give me Denver only because home teams on Thursday night have a tremendous advantage. That's the only reason. I think Denver sucks. I also think Indy sucks. Just the whole big bowl sucks out of this game.
The Horse Bowl Classic.
Yeah, there's no way that these two teams are like even on a neutral playing field. The Broncos are a better team. Now they're worse coached, but honestly, I haven't been that impressed by the Colts coaching either this year.
Yeah, both of them are going to get fired.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Nate Hackett's toast, and Frank Reich's probably toast too.
yeah, give me the home team. No doubt about it.
Man, if I could get Broncos +3, I would have emptied my bank account to make that bet. Like, my goodness. I'm about to buy a house, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to spend this money on this. You know,
I'll buy 2 houses.
maybe. Anyway, Sunday, 9:30, I think this is a London game.
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
So Giants at Packers. So this is a neutral site game, but the Packers are the de facto home team. They're laying 8.5 to the Giants. Okay, so the Giants are 3-1, but that's a phony baloney 3-1. But the Packers are 3-1, and I feel like theirs is, I won't say it's phony, but it's not very impressive, right? Like they won in overtime last week against Bailey Zappi.
Yeah.
I almost want to call him Zappy Bailey, but
Yeah, they got taken to overtime in that game.
by some guy named Bailey Zappi.
Yeah.
So I believe I had that one. I picked.
I did not.
I also had
Yes,
that
Corey
one.
had
Yeah,
that
we
one too.
we both were like, yeah, no, and Evan was like, no, the Packers are gonna win in a landslide.
9.5
Yeah,
points.
that was shooting an air ball out of me.
Yeah, so the Giants. I don't think the Giants are. I don't think they're good, but
Are
the
they
Packers
are they worse than the Patriots?
marginally at best, and this line would indicate that they're significantly worse. And the Patriots just covered. So
Right.
like I just don't trust the Packers with big spreads when they haven't shown that they can consistently score. Like they don't have the passing weapons, so they're not going to put up big points. So it doesn't take a whole lot. Plus, I got to mention the Patriots ran right through the Packers.
And
defense.
Saquon Barkley has been excellent this year. There's
Saquon's
no reason
better than anybody on the Patriots running attack. I mean, come on.
he's better than any other running back in the NFL right now, honestly.
Yeah. So, like, to me, this doesn't feel like the Packers are going to win. I think, but
Sure.
8.5 is way too many. I'm taking the Giants.
I got the Giants as well for the reasons that you said. The Packers can't score, and the Packers defense. I mean, Corey, I blame you for this, right? You were gassing up the Packers defense. Oh, their defense is going to be so good. Their defense is not good, and
I don't really remember like gassing about that much. I just said like the Packers have a good defense.
well, they don't have a good defense.
It's been very underwhelming so far this season.
Yeah.
Seems to happen a lot with the
The
Packers.
It
Patriots
does.
ran through them like crap through a tin horn.
Thank you, Nick Saban.
Yeah, it's ugh.
In fact, it feels like the Patriots blew the game, which is insane given the fact that the Patriots had no business even being in the game. But it felt like they had a chance to, like, they almost went away from the run a little bit too much in crunch time. They should have just kept doing it. And they couldn't come up with that one play call to put them over the edge.
I think the Giants might win this game. I said it.
That would be something else.
That really would be something else, and that would make me very upset because I'm taking the Packers.
Oh.
Plus, you eliminated the Giants.
Yeah, I
week
also
one.
did eliminate the Giants.
If they somehow get to
But
4-1, you're going to be sweating.
8.5 is a lot, and this does make me a little bit nervous. But the Giants are still a really bad team, and this is neutral field. This is, I don't know. It just 8.5 on a neutral field is a lot different than 9.5 on the road. I think the Packers can pull this one out, and I feel like, after playing an overtime game against a team that they had no business having to go to overtime to beat last week, I think they're going to come out a little bit more cohesive this week. I think they're starting to figure out how to use some of their rookies. If you think about that last game, Romeo Doubs dropped a touchdown in the end zone. I don't think he's going to drop all of those. And they've got Christian Watson, who's getting a little more involved in their offense. So I think they're starting to figure out some of their weapons. They still got a long way to go before I can consistently rely on them. But I'm going to take them in this one.
Okay. All right, so we've got now Chargers at Browns. The Chargers.
No, you skipped one.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I skipped. How could I forget these guys? The Steelers at Bills are. The Bills are favored by 14 points. Steep.
Very steep.
That's pretty steep. But the Bills are winning the Super Bowl, so I'm taking the Bills.
The Bills are winning the Super Bowl, but I'm taking the Steelers.
I want to remind everybody that nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. That said, I'm picking Pittsburgh. I think the Bills have been playing down to their competition lately. Like, we know the Bills are the best team in the league. They rolled the Rams, they rolled the Titans, but then they lost to Miami, and they only beat the Ravens by 3. Like, they're not going to beat the Steelers by 15.
And granted, the Ravens are way better than the Steelers. The Dolphins are also better than the Steelers.
15 points?
Yeah, it's
that's a lot of points.
it's just too much for me to rely on because as Evan said, the Bills have not done a lot of blowing out in the last couple of weeks. It's not to say that they can't blow out the Steelers. They certainly should blow out the Steelers. But 2 touchdowns, a lot can happen that can mess that up. I'm not willing to bet on the Bills maintaining a 3 or 4 touchdown lead in this game.
Well, I am, so,
Okay.
All right.
So we've got Chargers. Now we've got Chargers at Browns.
Yes.
Chargers are 2.5-point road favorites over Cleveland. This is a little bit of a doozy because the Chargers, they feel so discombobulated. We don't really know what Justin Herbert is right now with his injury. Keenan Allen, is he coming back?
So Justin Herbert practiced in full today. It seems like he's back. He played pretty well this past week. I don't have any concerns about him. I do have concerns about Keenan Allen. I don't think that he practiced at all today. He's still considered day-to-day. Who knows if he's going to play this weekend? And that certainly throws a wrench into some things. Gerald Everett has been really strong for them so far this season. He's been, a target monster and has, done decently with it. Mike Williams, rather. He had a pretty good game quietly this past Sunday. But outside of the two of them, the other wide receivers, they have been kind of sporadic. Joshua Palmer shows up occasionally, but, then disappears. And I don't even know if I could name the other receivers on their team, quite frankly. There's definitely a lot to be nervous about here. The Browns have, looked decent. Their running game is fantastic, particularly Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is really the only other guy that I might put in that conversation with Saquon Barkley as potentially the best running back in the NFL so far this season. Because besides the two of them, I think the next guy in terms of yards would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm not putting him in that conversation. No way.
No chance.
I've pulled up the Chargers practice report, and Herbert practiced in full, like you said, and Keenan Allen DNP.
Yeah. Yep, did not practice. Good day today. So this game, I don't know. Browns at home. I feel like I'm gonna take Cleveland in this one. It's quite a yawn.
Yeah, tired. It's been a long day.
It has been a long day.
I'm gonna take the Chargers just on a whim, I guess. I think this is a pretty good line. Cleveland last couple of weeks, they lost to the Falcons. That's pretty bad. They lost to the Jets. That's pretty bad.
The Browns lost to the Falcons and the Jets.
And they almost lost to the Panthers. Like they needed like a
Ooh.
59-yard field goal at the gun.
Ooh.
Do the Chargers win close games?
I don't know.
No,
Usually
they
not.
don't.
Yeah.
But-
Evan's answer was the one I was looking for.
But I don't need them to win a close game. I need them to win by 3 or more. So,
3's close.
But Cleveland doesn't win close games either.
That's fair.
So, this is why it's a good line. This is what
It
I'm
is a
saying.
good. Yeah, it is a good line.
I'm just, again, this is just a gut pick. Going with the Chargers.
I'm going with the Browns at home. Just, I mean,
Man, Eric is getting
Living
more
on Lonely
low.
Island
Yeah,
here, man. I got
he sure
3
is.
straight.
no.
I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. All right. Evan, do you have anything you want to add about the Browns and why you're picking them?
I mean, I'm less confident in them now.
I mean,
I don't know. I just don't trust the Chargers, right? Like, the games they're supposed to win, they don't. And the games they're not supposed to win, they do. It's just, they're a mess. Like you said, discombobulated. I guess the Browns are slightly more combobulated.
that's obviously going to be a contender for a title. The thing with the Chargers is that they covered against the Chiefs, so that's enough for me. So anyway, Texans at Jaguars. These spreads are just brutal. Like touchdowns, even. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's so many like 7-point and 3-point and 14 points.
It's
Like,
can y'all give me
That's-
a hook?
yes, please. Can we just have a hook for every game? Like, why do we have these straight lines that can end up in a push? I hate the fact that some of these can end up in a push.
Especially when it's 7, because that's a common margin to lose by is 7 and 3. Anyway,
Hate pushes.
this is brutal. The Texans are buns. They're the only winless team, as Evan pointed out. The Jaguars, I thought were good. They still might be good, but that was I stated that Trevor Lawrence is him, and then he fumbles the ball 4 times, and
He won't fumble the ball 4 times this week. He might throw 4 interceptions though. I wouldn't put that past him.
I don't think he's doing that against the Texans. I'm going to take the Jaguars and lay the 7 points. It's a lot, but like if I have any belief that the Jaguars are legitimately a good team, I have to take them.
No, I mean that's basically where I'm at too. Like I still think that the Jaguars might be good. I just eliminated the Texans, so I'm gonna go ahead and stand by that. I'm gonna take the Jaguars, but I'd be lying if I said that I'm not extremely nervous.
Yeah, me too.
I think both of y'all are just dead wrong. Texans plus 7. This game's going to be close. The Jags turn the ball over a bunch, and I think baked into this line is everybody thinks, oh, the Texans suck. They would lose to Alabama and stuff. They're not that bad.
I don't think that they're that bad either.
No, I think Jags win in a squeaker, probably by like 4 or something.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
I gotta have faith in the team to be able to win the game for me to pick them to cover a 7-point line, and I just don't see the
Oh,
Texans
okay.
winning.
Well, I mean, the Jags think they're going to win by 8.
They could win by 7, and that's a big push.
Oh, okay.
If this was 7 and a hook, I'd probably pick the Texans.
Well, if it's a push, you can pat yourself on the back in the notes next week.
Well, no, you can because you're the lone wolf,
Oh, okay.
apparently, and you're hosting, so you can really ham it up.
Oh, absolutely.
Sweet. I was the only one to pick a team that pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what? All right, so now we got an even more annoying spread, or maybe not. I don't know. The Bears at Vikings -7. I'm actually more confident in picking this one. I'm taking the Vikings and laying the points because I mean, I don't really believe that much in the Vikings, but good Lord, the Bears are trash. It's an absolute disgrace of a football franchise. They should be contracted.
I couldn't agree more. Vikings roll. Kirk Cousins not on prime time or early in the morning in the only game on TV. So he's going to have a career day, in relative obscurity.
Well, he's going to have many career days for him to be like the 5th leading passer in the league or whatever you said. Or you said he'd lead the league in passing yards.
He could. He just,
He's not.
sucks. That's all.
He can lead the league in passing yards. He just sucks.
Yeah.
I am also taking the Vikings, but only because of what Evan just said. The fact that this is a 1 o'clock game for Kirk Cousins, because quite honestly, I mean, Justin Jefferson has been kind of nowhere to be found the last couple of weeks. Dalvin Cook hasn't done anything the last couple of weeks. Like,
Where you at, bro?
Where is he?
Where you at?
And the Bears finally let Justin Fields throw the ball some this past week. He had a really nice downfield shot to Darnell Mooney for like 56 yards with no yak. Like, it was a 56 yards in the air pass play that he connected with Darnell Mooney on. I'd like to see some more of that. So, and the Vikings defense can absolutely give that up. Like, the Vikings defense is not much to write home about these days. So I can definitely see the Bears being close, but the fact that it is a 1 o'clock game, Kirk Cousins generally is pretty good during that time slot. And eventually either Dalvin Cook or Justin Jefferson, one of them's got to show up, right? I'm going to go ahead and take the Vikings here, but I'm a little bit less gung-ho than the two of you are.
Well, I'm not super gung-ho, but I'm more so than the Jaguars.
Are you just gung or just ho?
I don't know what that is. Lions at Patriots. Patriots are 3-point favorites, even though Bailey Zappe's playing. Actually, I actually don't even know if that's true. Is Brian Hoyer back? Like, he looked like he was pretty done to me. But
Does it matter?
I don't know. I feel
Bailey Zappe's the first rookie quarterback to throw a touchdown pass this year.
Congrats to him.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Oh, my God. That's right, because Kenny Pickett never threw one. He just ran him in. Malik Willis is going to be better than both. Just saying.
Probably.
Maybe.
It doesn't mean he's going to be good. It just means he's going to be better than both.
Yeah.
As a certified backer of Man Campbell, I'm inclined to pick the Lions always, but not necessarily always. But this line feels, I don't know. The Patriots, what, 1-3?
Something like that. Yeah.
And the Lions are 1-3. The Lions score all these points, but they also give up all these points. That being said, I feel like just if I'm looking on paper in terms of talent, I like the Lions better. But then it's a case of Man Campbell, who I love, versus Bill Belichick, who I also like and is goated. That makes it tough. Give me the Lions.
Yeah,
give me the Lions.
I'm no wish-washing for me. I'm on the Lions here. I think the wrong team is favored.
Is the wrong team favored on our sheet? We've already experienced
no.
that.
the Patriots actually are 3-point favorites.
This line makes some sense.
But I think the Lions should be favored in this game. I think that they will win this game because as bad as the Lions' defense is, I don't know that the Patriots are good enough to take full advantage of that. You know, they've got a couple of good running backs. Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris are probably both going to have pretty good days in this game. But in order to keep up in a track meet, which is what the Lions are playing, I mean, the Lions are 1-3, but they are leading the NFL in points.
Both sides of the ball are leading the NFL in points.
Yes. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
So they are going to put up points in this game. The Patriots defense is not very good this year. They're not going to be able to completely shut down the Lions, and it's not cold enough in New England yet for the weather to shut down the Lions. So Detroit's going to put up some points, and the Patriots offense is not high-powered enough to keep up in that style of a game. So the Lions ought to win this. Do I think they're going to win by a lot? No, because this doesn't seem like a team that's going to be capable of doing that because their defense is so garbage. Even with, Hutchinson and Rodrigo, like, their defense is not him right now.
No, it's not. They're terrible. Evan, who you got?
Another slam dunk for me. You got the Detroit Lions and the points. This offense getting points? You're kidding me? They, like you said, lead the league in scoring. I don't think the Patriots can move the ball. Like Corey, you said the Patriots' offense isn't high powered. They have no power. There's nothing there. There's nobody. The Patriots' defense isn't very good either. They can't hang in a track meet. Like this is just a bad matchup for them. I think the Lions win the game. To be honest, like if we were picking who was just going to win straight up, I picked Detroit.
Aren't they all bad matchups when you're a bad team?
I mean, the Lions are a bad team, but like the Patriots are, I think, worse.
I think they're worse too. Like I feel like the Lions, I don't think they were within a couple of plays of beating the Eagles. Like they covered that, but it was very much backdoor. They were down by 10. In fact, I think they were down by 17. But the game against the Vikings was a really brutal loss. Like they were in control of the game and they just lost it. And who did they lose to this week?
Seattle.
Right. That's pretty tough. Losing to the Seahawks is not great, but that was a barn burner of a game, 48-45. I mean, in the NFL, this is not the Pac-12, right? This
or
is
the Big 12,
or the
where
Big 12,
defense
yeah.
is optional.
Yes, I mean the Big 12iest Big 12 game of all time. That was wonderful. Anyway, yeah, let's move on to Seahawks at Saints. Saints are laying 5.5 at home. I don't get this.
Me neither. I'm taking the Seahawks.
Yeah, like go Hawks.
Like
I got the Seahawks too.
Yeah, this isn't like this is a really egregious one because I think the wrong team is favored here too. Quite frankly, because Jameis Winston didn't practice today. Like he's even if he does play on Sunday, he's not going to be at full health, and he hasn't been that great this year. And if he doesn't play, Andy Dalton's going to be the quarterback, and maybe Taysom Hill with some Wildcat stuff. Like that's not going to get it done. And the Seahawks did really well this past week, and the Saints defense hasn't looked great. Like, are they going to give up 48 points like the Lions just did? No,
but they're not going to score 45.
But they're right. Yeah, but they're not going to score 45. So yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks here.
The Saints have been a colossal disappointment, at least to me, this year. Like it seems like, like remember there was a funny video that went viral of a raccoon getting a piece of cotton candy, and raccoons always dip their food in water to rinse it off before they eat it. But when you dip cotton candy in water, it dissolves. And I feel like that's the Saints here. Like, you just touch them the wrong way and they just fall apart like a card castle. It's what a disappointment the Saints.
That was one interesting roundabout analogy, but
yes.
If it works for you, that's cool.
It does, yeah. Imagine being a raccoon, think you're going to get some cotton candy, and then all of a sudden it dissolves into thin air.
Raccoon probably pretty upset.
Yeah.
I'd be upset too.
Maybe that's why the raccoon attacked Buddy the Elf.
Okay, now we're not leaving it. It's not Christmas season. Okay, come on.
It is if you ask
Evan. Too early for that.
Evan thinks it's
Evan's
Christmas
claiming
season.
that you gotta wait till after Halloween, so which is borderline saying you gotta wait till after Thanksgiving, but
I mean, if we're gonna do it right after Halloween, we may as just do it right after Easter.
No, we're not doing that. Stop. That's coaster season. You need to back up.
Anyway. You listen to Christmas music while you're on the coasters. Let the Fury 305 band play Christmas
music.
Can
we get to Dolphins Jets, please?
Evan really wants to talk about Dolphins Jets.
No, he just wants to eat.
He's hungry. All right. Dolphins at Jets. Dolphins are laying 3 as a road team, even though Tua's not playing. That's because Teddy Two Gloves, which is apparently a nickname of his that I just found out about last year, will be starting for the Dolphins, which is certainly not a bad backup quarterback situation. Teddy could probably start for some teams. Meanwhile, the Jets, Zach Wilson's back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He played
this past week.
And he led a comeback, and oh my God, everybody's so excited. 3 points for the road team with a backup quarterback in, though. That's
yeah.
Tough.
I'm a little nervous about this one. This is one that I don't like having to pick at all. and I'm kind of hoping that this one's just a push because I have no idea which one to pick.
Yeah, the Dolphins just need to win this by 3 so we can all go home unhappy.
Yeah. Jeez. I like Teddy Bridgewater so much. I want him to be good. I wanted him to be the next quarterback for the Saints when he was down there.
We're 5-0.
But I also need him to, stop just hyper-targeting Tyreek Hill and throw the ball to Jalen Waddle a little bit, please. The Jets
threw the ball to Jalen
that is
Waddle
my own
plenty
problem.
against
Breece Hall looks pretty good for the Jets. I still don't know what to make of the rest of their offense. But it seemed like Zach Wilson at least found some receivers that he could rely on. I'm going to take the Jets at home. I hate this game so much.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets too. I just think that you're going on the road and laying points. You better be really, really good. And a team that doesn't have their starting quarterback, by nature of the league, is not going to be really, really good. So, and the Jets aren't that bad. Like, the Jets are competitive. So, Jets, Jets.
Says the guy who eliminated the Jets last week.
So what? That doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs. It just means they're going to win this game or they're not going to lose by more than 3.
Yeah. Give me the Jets at home. I like this.
All right. Well, now I feel a little bit less bad because at least if I go down, you guys are going down with me.
I mean, I can't pick the Dolphins. It's just not going to work. All right. So we got Falcons at Buccaneers. Buccaneers laying 9 points. Now, we talked about how we think the Bucs you could probably have better times ahead. That might be true, and they're probably going to win this game. But, man, 9 points is a lot. I think it's underestimating how respectable and frisky the Falcons are. I'm taking Atlanta to cover the 9.
I'm taking the Bucs mostly because Cordell Patterson is on IR now, and he was a big part of why the Falcons were frisky offensively. Falcons' defense is still garbage. And Drake London was a complete no-show this past week. After a really good week 3, Kyle Pitts was a complete no-show this past week. I think without that
season,
I think without the run game that Cordell Patterson provides them, it's going to be really hard for them to get the passing game going. And while Tyler Algier could be really good, I haven't seen enough from him so far to believe that he can provide them with enough of a run game to keep them in this game. So I'm going to take the Bucs to win this handily. At the same time, it is a division game, so I'm not going to say that I am not nervous, because I am a little bit.
Yeah, Corey, I think you're wrong on this one. The Falcons keep it close. If Cordell Patterson was somebody you were counting on, you've got a problem, I think. So I feel like he's replaceable. They can put somebody else in there.
Mike Davis didn't do so hot last year when he
because Mike Davis is a bum.
Like he's
below replacement level.
Are the other running backs for the Falcons not also below replacement level as of right now?
I think Algier's got potential to be.
I think he's got potential, but he's below replacement level right now, if you ask me.
But he's only below replacement level because he doesn't get to play. I don't think he's just like.
So he's inherently replacement level. He's the replacement.
But that's not necessarily true. You could have a backup running back that's above replacement level. But
you can also have one who's below replacement level.
That's also true. You can have a starter that's below replacement level.
Like Mike Davis.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, the Falcons keep it close. The Bucs I feel like they have too many issues, and the Falcons and sort of the nature of this division always plays close games, even when one team is head and shoulders better than the other team. I think the Bucs win, but not going to be by 10.
All right, we'll move to Titans, who are 2.5-point favorites at Commandos. So we know how this works when the games are being played, and Rajan Corey just immediately typed in Titans.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. I'm in the same boat. I'm going to take the Titans to cover this pretty meager line. The Commies are awful. Carson Wentz is awful. Derrick Henry's starting to get
his legs
back. The Titans are starting to look like the team that I kind of thought they would be, which is kind of mid. But we kind of wrote them off after they lost to the Giants. But I think they have just as good a chance of winning this crappy division as anybody. Like, it might be them and Jacksonville are the real contenders, which, but
right.
That's still better than the commies who are just complete ass cheeks.
Yeah.
And
No, I mean, it's
Commando Carson out there just slinging picks. So.
It's October. There's snow on the ground in Vermont. Derrick Henry's back.
Okay.
Those were 3 things that have nothing to do with each other.
Apparently, Derrick Henry always becomes good when, after the first snow in Vermont. Apparently, that's a thing.
That is not a thing.
Apparently, it is.
I can say definitively that is not a thing. I can also say definitively that the Titans will roll the commies just because I'm not picking Washington to win nothing.
That's a good strategy.
It is.
This explains why none of us have lost theoretical money. All right. So
Finally into the later afternoon. I hate that we only have 3 games last week in the 4 o'clock window. We only have 3 games this week in the 4 o'clock window.
Well, not going to change anything by complaining about it. So
Apparently
let's
not.
just get to the games. 49ers, 6.5-point favorites at Panthers. Big road spread. I don't care. 49ers.
Yeah, who's the coach of the home team?
Matt Rule.
That's a
Yeah,
good question.
I'm
actually.
gonna
Why
pick
not?
the other team.
Plus, I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, I realize the Panthers are at home, but when they start booing the quarterback, I feel like the home court or home field advantage doesn't exist anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it might go to the other team.
There might be a bunch of Niners fans at this game. Like an expansion team hosting the Niners.
It's like this is the Steph Curry Bowl, though. It's
That
his
is true.
hometown team
Yeah,
with
that's
his,
the team that represents his current city.
yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause he was on the Manning cast. He was salty about not happy with Peyton because Peyton's Broncos beat his Panthers in the Super Bowl. And then he was rooting for the 49ers during the game.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a Cedar Fair Parks Bowl as well.
Carowinds and California's Great America?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All that said, Niners roll. I mean, the Panthers have no team. So, and this isn't a West Coast team going east playing at 1 o'clock. This game's at 4 o'clock. So that's not an issue here either.
Yeah.
No quarterback, no coach. They got a running back. He caught a touchdown pass for Corey.
Ooh.
That was
okay.
a really cool little play, too.
Yeah.
All right. So the 425 games, a couple of NFC battles. Eagles laying 5.5 at Cardinals. A lot of big road favorites this week.
Who's the coach of the home team in this one?
Steve Wilkes.
I thought it was Ken Wisenhunt.
Steve Wilkes, Ken Wisenhunt,
Bruce
Cliff
Arians.
Kingsbury. I'm picking the other team. Give me the Eagles.
Oh, so you're going with Nick Sirianni, your boy.
The Eagles are good this year, man.
I told you Sirianni might be legit.
He might be legit.
That's going to be tough to swallow because we were hating.
He did look
I
terrible.
was mostly just hating on the
press
process of how he got that job. Like,
Well,
that was
also his
such
press
BS
conference
when
was-
you've got other people. The press conference was really rough.
He just looked so nervous and was just spouting off nonsense. I'm like, this guy's in over his head. But, hey, can't argue with the results so far. Yeah, these big-ass spreads are supposed to dissuade me, but they just don't.
No.
They just don't. Like, I feel like the Cardinals should have not covered the spread against the Panthers last week. They played so poorly, but Baker just said, "Here you go." You know, like that's not going to happen with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They're playing too well. Okay. At what point do we start thinking about Philly?
going
Yeah,
undefeated.
going undefeated.
Please, no.
I mean, look at their schedule though. They're never going to be underdogs. Like there's not an underdog.
I guess that's fair. I haven't looked at their full schedule, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But I feel like if you can go down 14-0 against the Jaguars, eventually you're gonna mess around against the wrong team and not be able to recover.
Absolutely, but I'm just saying, the schedule plus the quality of the team, it's worth keeping an eye on.
I'm not ready to jump into
This
that boat
isn't
yet,
this isn't
but
07 Patriots where after they beat the Cowboys and went 5-0, everybody's like, oh yeah, that team's gonna win all their games. Like, it's definitely not that, but it's just keep
I
an eye
mean,
on it.
I've got the Eagles schedule up. On the 16th, they play Dallas on Sunday night. Then they have a bye. Then Steelers, Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Giants again. So
I would say that
the only team they might lose to is Green Bay.
Packers and maybe the Titans if they can keep improving. Maybe that one's a little dicey to say, but the Packers, that one could be problematic. Is that in Philly or in Green Bay?
In Philly.
Okay. Yeah.
Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. We'll see.
It's highly improbable.
It is highly improbable.
Just wanted to put it out there. Anyway,
Improbable, but not impossible.
I'm taking the Eagles.
Yeah. So the Eagles are a great team. They're playing great football and stuff, and
They're playing great football.
I guess. And the matchup of the head coaches is no contest. With that said, give me Arizona and the points. Because the Cardinals just play crazy games all the time. It's always they're always getting blown out by 50 in the first quarter, and then it just comes storming back out of nowhere. It seems to be their move to just play close games all the time. Somebody wrote Eag Titans in the sheet earlier for some reason, but give me the Cardinals. They're not going to win, but I don't think they lose by 6.
This is a Oklahoma battle here. Kyler Murray versus Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Back-to-back years, weren't they?
Yeah, because Jalen Hurts transferred to Oklahoma after Kyler won the Heisman.
Yep.
All right, so Cowboys at Rams. Rams are 5.5-point favorites at home. This
one's a doozy.
This is a doozy
I don't
for
think it is.
a couple of reasons. Number one, the Cowboys are interesting. They're winning. The
Cooper Rush, undefeated.
Cooper Rush is rolling. Ewing Theory Committee might have to make an appearance to SoFi here.
Mm-hmm.
If the Cowboys win, then it's going to be a full-blown research topic at that point. But the Rams kind of buns. Like, I don't trust them. Like, and the thing is, I also don't trust Rams fans to show up in LA when they're playing the Cowboys. Like, this could easily turn
At 4:00.
This could easily turn into a Cowboys home game. So, how about them Cowboys? Give me Dallas.
I got Dallas as well for the reasons you just said. I do feel like the Cowboys, though, are the most overrated team in the league pretty consistently every year, just because they're, that's sort of the deal with being the Cowboys. That said, the Rams are just not very good this season. Like they can't run the ball. They can only throw the ball to one guy, or they throw it to the other team. Their defense got ran over last week, and that's the one thing that Cowboys can do on offense is run the ball. Because Cooper Rush isn't somebody who's going to light you up through the air. That's
He
just
will when
not
he's
going
throwing
to
a
happen.
CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, but this is going to be a home game for the Cowboys as well. Like, the Rams fans aren't going to overpower the Cowboys fans in terms of attendance at this game. Didn't the Cowboys used to have training camp in Southern California?
They might still. I guess they don't anymore.
They don't anymore.
Yeah, but
they have it at the
used
Star.
to, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am also going Cowboys here
Cowboys,
because
easy.
it's just it's too big of a spread. I mean, I don't really see enough of a difference between these two teams. I feel like they're pretty even, which would indicate that at best Rams should be a 3-point favorite as the home team. And again, as both of you guys said, there's no guarantee that they're going to have the atmosphere within SoFi to make it a true home field advantage anyway. So yeah, I'm taking Dallas here.
I think it's a guarantee that there's going to be more Cowboys fans than Rams fans.
Probably. All right, so let's move to Sunday Night Football, where the Bengals will be traveling to Baltimore to square off against your Ravens, Evan. Baltimore is a 3-point home favorite.
This is the opposite issue that I have with the Cowboys and Rams game. This is basically indicating that the two teams are even, and they're not. There's plenty to like about the Bengals, but the Ravens are the better team right now. And I get that the Ravens just blew a game against the Bills, but the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl and the Bengals are not. I'm taking the Ravens.
This is a doozy. Because while I agree the Ravens are the better team,
Have you tried watching the Ravens? Every game is a doozy.
True. The Bengals' best attribute is their receiving core,
Which is really good.
The Ravens can't cover anybody.
No.
So that is what concerns me. This is a bad matchup because Joe Burrow's going to have his choice of who to throw to.
And they're going to be wide open all the time.
Like we saw, now again, last year the Ravens were beat up and compromised, but we watched this Bengals team just absolutely bludgeon them twice. And
Paid $100 to see that.
yeah. But that's making me a bit nervous to pick the Ravens. I'm a little worried about them. Ravens defense in general has been just really questionable. Their pass rush isn't really there. I feel like you need to have that against Joe Burrow because he is very sackable. He is.
Somehow he has not been sacked the most times in the NFL.
Who has?
Pretty sure it's Carson Wentz right now.
Well, he gets himself sacked.
Well, so does Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's Joe Burrow does, but Carson Wentz does it more. And the thing is, he doesn't sack himself like Eli Manning. He gets himself sacked.
So last year, the player that did the worst at avoiding sacks was Joe Burrow, followed by Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. The difference was that Jameis Winston at least had like a neutral offensive line, whereas Joe Burrow also had a really bad offensive line.
Yeah, it's a bad combo. Boy, howdy, this is tough. I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I just talked myself out of the Bengals. I'm going with the Ravens.
I'm impressed. I thought
I've got the Ravens. I've got the Ravens with not a whole lot of confidence. I mean, the Ravens should win. They should be playing better than they have. If they could tackle or block in the least bit, they'd be 4-0, and everybody like, oh, the Ravens, the best team in football. They're going to go undefeated. But since the defense blows games every week, give me the Ravens minus the 3. But I'm just like, ugh. I'm not looking forward to this game at all.
Could be another Ravens push.
Or another late game meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
All very possible. All right, Monday Night Football, Raiders at Chiefs. Chiefs are laying 7. Another 7. Jeez, man. Why you gotta make it so hard? The Raiders are bad. Like, their defense is terrible. They made Russell Wilson look good for a week, maybe. That's pretty impressive at the rate he's been playing.
They've got some good players. I mean, they've got Devontae Adams, who's good. They've got Darren Waller, who's good. They've got Josh Jacobs, who isn't really that good, but did really, really well this past week.
It's really annoying. Throw the ball to Darren Waller, dude. Yeah, like, all that's true, but the Raiders just never seem to put it together. The Chiefs are a well-oiled machine. I mean, but then we've also seen questionable Raiders teams hang with the Chiefs and even beat the Chiefs.
Yeah,
sometimes.
We've seen questionable Raiders teams beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, and it's like
not just at home, but also in Arrowhead.
Yeah, and this is a division game, which makes it weird. The Chiefs are a little goofy at times, but I feel like they really bring it in prime time. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. I'll take the Chiefs. Oh my God.
Reluctantly.
Very reluctantly.
I agree with everything you said. I feel like the Chiefs are definitely the better team. They're at home in what's probably the loudest stadium in the league, in the primetime game. And the Raiders have looked terrible. Like they can't do simple stuff right. They can't get the ball to Devontae Adams. They can't get the ball to Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs is overrated. With that said, give me the Raiders, because It's a division game, and the Raiders, again, Eric, like you said, just play the Chiefs tight and sometimes even beat them when they have no business doing either of those. I mean, the Chiefs should win this game by, I don't know, 15, 20 points or something like that, but they're not going to. It's going to be close. And so give me the Raiders and the points in a track meet, 40-something to 40-something.
I don't know if I see this necessarily being a track meet like that. I mean, when you're relying on Travis Kelce as like your only reliable wide receiver. I mean, I considered for our tiebreaker asking who was going to get more receiving yards between Devontae Adams or a combination of Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, because that's actually been pretty even so far this season if you look at it week by week. In fact, the first week when MVS and Juju combined for like 120 yards, Devontae Adams outgained them. He had 141 yards in week 1. In week 2, I think Devontae Adams had 12 receiving yards, but MVS and Juju combined for like 20 something. So like it's been pretty even there. No, for all the reasons that Evan just said, I'm also taking the Raiders. Because we've seen this script before. The Raiders can look like one of the worst teams in the league, and they'll still come out and give the Chiefs a hard time and potentially even beat them. They have no business winning this game, but it's very much within the realm of possibility. We've seen it happen before, and this Raiders team at least has more talent than those previous ones did. It just hasn't all gelled. But for whatever reason, it seems like it's more likely to gel against the Chiefs than against anybody else.
Isn't the Chiefs' defense still bad too?
It's not good.
Like, were we forgetting that little detail? Like, the Chiefs have to play defense as well, and they can't do it.
That's all true. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. It was a struggle. I struggled. This could be the week where I either somehow pull away or fall way behind in these picks.
You've got quite a few lone wolf picks there, my friend.
Yeah, I do. It's not usually where I'm at. Normally, I'm kind of playing even keel. But
and of course, I'm back on the lonely island with the Cardinals. This happens every year,
yes,
at least 3 times. I'm the only one who picks the Cardinals, and they get close and then blow it.
Yeah.
I can't learn my lesson.
Yeah, we learned the lesson from you, but you haven't learned the lesson from you. Well, that rounds out our picks for the week. You guys, I think, can still enter our contest, although at this point it might be tough for y'all to catch up because we have 33 or 34 wins.
But we also track week by week, so you can still get a shout out on the show and on the blog.
Yeah, we might do that for you. So feel free to participate at any time, and it's been a lot of fun so far. We continue to have good times making these picks, and we'll continue to do so for the remainder of the season and the postseason. So that does it, I think, for our show topics, unless something interesting or cool or tragic or something of that ilk happened in the last 2 hours that I don't know about.
Yeah.
The apparently it was a protester who was tackled by Bobby Wagner after running on the field.
What was he
filing
protesting?
a police report.
Yeah, what was the protest about?
No idea.
Was it protesting gender reveals? Because it looked like a gender reveal.
It did look like a gender reveal. I don't know.
It's not a very good protest if the general public doesn't know what it is you're protesting. Like, the whole purpose of a protest is to make sure people know, you're not happy and what it is you're not happy about.
Yeah, at least
If you're not letting us know what that is, then you're bad at protesting.
At least the lady that glued her hands to the court in Minneapolis, we found out what her get down was.
Yeah.
In the article from ESPN, according to TMZ Sports, the individual is an activist for the Berkeley, California-based animal rights group Direct Action Everywhere and was trying to, quote, raise awareness for a trial involving the alleged theft of pigs from a factory farm, end quote.
Oh, I thought maybe we were doing something inhumane to that squirrel from last year in New York, or 2 years ago in New York, and maybe he was protesting that.
I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm I'm not a super invested animal rights activist, so I don't know all the inappropriate acts that take place.
I don't know.
But either way, come up with a better way to protest, dude, because that looked like a gender reveal.
It also looked painful, right? You got tackled by someone who plays in the NFL.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's less than ideal.
Not what you want.
No.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can email us at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you have any mailbag questions or topics you would like us to discuss, or if you just want to tell us we're awesome or we suck or something in between. That's all good. We'll take whatever we can get. You can also follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You can get this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and if you have a specific podcatcher that you would prefer to be able to get us on, let us know via that same email address, and we will do our best to get access to it. You can follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67. And Evan is at Evan_Ash13. Before we get out of here, do you fellas have any shout-outs?
Shout out to the people who tuned in. It looked like we had as many as 3 or 4 people listening live at any one point. Shout out to Alex Mayo, who I was a little bit late seeing his comments, so I wasn't able to respond to them on the show. But he thinks Maryland is going to be 7-1 going into the Penn State game.
It's possible.
I don't know who they play after this weekend's game against Purdue,
they
but
play Indiana and they play, I want to say, Northwestern at homecoming. So
those
are all very winnable.
they could absolutely be 7-1.
Those are all homecoming games.
And he also expressed frustration with the stupid Commanders, wanting them to hurry up and lose so we can get out of here.
That's good.
They very well may do that this week against the Titans.
I mean, we all picked the Titans to cover.
Yes, we did.
So, you know.
I think that's, shout out, I guess, also to, cross-country meet directors who had to make a tough decision to cancel this past weekend with the storms from Hurricane Ian coming through. And, it's all about the safety of the athletes. It can be tough sometimes to make that decision because you want to run and you feel like, it's just going to be rain. But, you have to be really careful with the courses out there. Those courses can get really messy really quick. And at that point, it definitely becomes a safety hazard. So shout out to them for making a tough but I think correct decision. We're going to be up in Cockeysville at Shawin Downs this weekend for a pretty big meet. It's basically like a cross-country festival for a lot of Maryland DC teams. It's going to be 76 teams up there. We are running in the seeded varsity race, so that should be a lot of fun.
Good.
What is going on with the cross country all of a sudden, right? It's the course could get messy is a reason to cancel a race. Every single one of those races, I came home completely covered in mud, like a terracotta warrior. Just, all one color, just dirt.
Yeah, society didn't care about our safety, Evan. We actually care about.
Now there's
about
concussion protocol and stuff with all the trees you ran into. Remember those?
Yeah, it's not fair to those of us who didn't have that. We just shouldn't have concussion protocol, and we shouldn't cancel meets for safety issues.
You ran face first into a tree at least twice.
We should just go back to leather helmets.
Oh, man.
All of this is sarcastic to anybody who's tuning in for the first time and does not get our sense of humor.
We talked extensively about concussion protocol a couple hours
Yes, we
ago.
did.
Yeah.
So you ought to know our get down on that. All right, Evan, any shout-outs?
It is true that Corey ran into all those trees. No shout-outs for me.
One tree one time.
That happened at least twice.
Yeah.
There was always like, what happened to this guy now? He's crying, and there's a frisbee and a tree. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Of course, I'd be coming back from my run well after everybody else, and then I come back and I'm like, what is the deal now with this guy?
Once Eric gets through his yawn, he can tell us if he has a shout-out.
I've got 2 shout-outs, actually. Corey mentioned one of these shout-outs in the chat, but I saw it earlier that day. A shout-out to Joey Gallo for hitting his 3rd career sacrifice fly in his 8-year career. Mostly a shout-out because how the hell is this only your 3rd career sac fly? I mean, that's something else.
Speaking of weird things like that, did the Mets do it? Did they finish for the first time in MLB history a 162-game season without a single sacrifice bunt?
I know the Braves had gone.
Or was it the Braves, not the Mets? It was the Braves. Did the Braves do it?
They bunted last night.
A sack bunt?
Yes.
Did they do that just to say they did one? Because that's
probably
those jerks.
jerks. Anyway, shout out to Joey Gallo. a 3 true outcomes legend for not hitting sack flies. That's awesome stuff from you.
How is that even possible?
3 true outcomes, except for the 3 times in his career that he's hit a sack fly.
It's just like I feel like I hit more than 3 sack flies in my career playing baseball, and I probably played maybe 150 games total tops, if that. So So back then, in some of those leagues that I played, they didn't even have rules about sack flies because you weren't allowed to tag up because you were like 5. So there's that.
Oh.
So anyway, shout out to you, Joey Gallo. May your success or lack of success improve next year when they get rid of the shift and they can't put 4 infielders on one side.
There you go.
That might work out better for you.
Hopefully he just keeps
Something to look
collecting
forward
checks.
to. Whatever you got to do. And shout out to Bomani Jones, who announced today that he had his contract extended with ESPN.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So he's back to his 3 times a week for his podcast. You guys know I'm a regular listener of The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Is his HBO show going to be back?
Yeah, it's going to be back. Yeah.
Okay.
That's coming back in January, but that's a separate thing.
Nice.
Bomani took a little bit of a sabbatical this summer from his podcast and promised us everything was fine, and he was right. So glad to see him back on board and staying on board with ESPN. He's got a good thing going there, and more content for us, so we win.
Good stuff.
I feel like Bobani Jones is too smart and too cool for me, like at the same time. Like it's just over my head in both of those realms. And like my concern for him would be at ESPN, being too black in terms of, outwardly stating the racial issues in our society. Because they've gotten rid of people for doing that too much.
Yeah.
But, he's great, and hopefully got a big raise as well.
Yeah, that's certainly not something of my concern is how much somebody makes, but,
I hope he makes more.
Get
He's
that
great.
money. Yeah, get that money. Also, just a last-minute shout-out. Shout-out to NFL Live because, my goodness, they are great. I've talked about them. I record them every day. I watch their show every day, but like the in-depth conversations that Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears and Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky have on a daily basis, and Laura Rutledge too. Don't want to forget her. It's if you want to learn about football, normally you have to go to some total football nerd podcast like Bill Barnwell, or have to listen to Ben Solak of The Ringer and stuff like that. Now this is
also great.
Yeah, Ben Solak's great too, and so is Bill Barnwell. Love both of them, but this is on like basic cable TV every day. So you could tune in and just get like from former players and top-notch analysts, just understanding like the concept of the difference between a quarterback being under center and in the shotgun, and how that messes with the defense and defensive players, and how they have to make their decisions and things like that. It's just very fascinating, and they all seem to really like each other. The chemistry is really great. It's really good TV, and I think a lot of times people knock ESPN for being just kind of this generic one-size-fits-all outlet for sports, because let's face it, that's kind of what it has to be. But this is not that. This is actual like nitty-gritty stuff that anybody that, if you're a football enthusiast, you will absolutely get a lot out of. So full credit to them for that.
And I feel like they also, on that show, they cover the league evenly. Like if you just watch SportsCenter, it'll just be LeBron, the Yankees, the Cowboys, and Tom Brady.
Yeah, like basically watching Skip Bayless every day.
Yeah, but like on that show, they talk about everybody, who deserves talking about.
Yep. So that'll do it for this episode of the Sports Ballers. We will be back next week with Evan running the show, recapping Week 5, talk a little postseason baseball, and we're inching just a little bit closer to the start of the NBA and NHL season, so we might get into that a little bit too. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week.